turn it off if you're able and put it away in your purse or in your pocket, so it won't be a distraction, because we're so excited for the night. We want you to get the most out of it. Your parents want you to get the most out of it. So having your phone and texting while we're listening or doing activities would be a distraction. So we want you to have no distractions tonight. Hear everything our speakers are bringing to us, and do everything God wants to do in your heart. All right? Okay, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Mrs. Barber. This is Pooch Sharon's walking out the door. Say hello, Sue.
Hello, Sue.
And Mrs. Campbell's in the lobby. We're the 3 directors of HEED. And our speakers tonight are Darlene and Kim Unruh. They're from Western Canada, and I met them 25 years ago, probably. John was probably 25 years ago, we'll say. And we've been besties ever since. So the best part of them coming for HEED for you is tonight, but the best part for me is we get to stay up late in my house and talk every night.
And eat Blue Bonnet ice cream?
Bluebell.
Bluebell ice cream. We don't have it.
Yeah, it's good. So if you need anything, we're going to have a session together, then we're going to stop and have dinner. And we have everybody's name recorded for a Chick-fil-A sandwich. There's chips, there's cookies and water, and when dinner's being served, we'll line up at the bar, collect your dinner, and eat outside in the picnic tables. Okay?
All right.
Ready to get rolling?
Let's get it going.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to talk about life's 5 crucial questions. I've done this with students. I've done this with adults. It's fun both ways. And the answer to your questions will either give you confidence to life or start making you feel really insecure and unsure. So we're going to start with this activity. I'm going to invite you to pair up. Looks like we have 30 people. If there's somebody you don't know and you need a little help in finding a partner, no worries, I'll help you out. But we're going to pair up just like these guys do. So in the military, they do trust exercises, right? So why would you need a trust exercise in the military? Why? Yes?
You can trust like whoever you're with. So you don't have to
Why is that important though? Why do you need to trust who you're with?
well, because you have to work together with them to actually get stuff done.
Yeah, so you have to work together to get stuff done, but why in the military is it so important to trust?
You have to trust them with your life.
There you go. It's life or death. It's not like
They got a gun.
they got a gun, right? So if somebody says duck, you don't want them going, you're not the boss of me. Like, why do I have to? It's over, right? So like it's life or death. Is that fair? So this is a really big deal. And guys, I need you to come in so you can see the whiteboard. Okay? So however you come in, come in. So you're going to find a partner. You're going to get one of our blindfolds. And you can either get one for yourself or you can just share with your partner if you know them well and you go, it's not a problem. Doesn't matter which way you put them on. But when you put them on, I'd like you to understand that if you really want to peek, you can, but you won't have as much fun. So my suggestion is that you don't peek. Close your eyes. Put this on, and then your partner puts their arm out. Everyone put your arm out like you're escorting somebody down, in a wedding to their seat. Okay? Put your arm out. And that's how you're going to do it. You're not going to be pushing the person around with their shoulders. This is a controlled exercise, right? So you're putting the arm on the shoulder, and the other person puts their arm through your elbow, right? So they put them through. Why? Because if you do them the other way, the person who's blindfolded is leading you. That just doesn't make sense, you know what I'm saying? So the person with the blindfold is going to be putting their arm through the person who does not have a blindfold, right? And then you're going to as soon as you get the blindfold on, you get to start walking throughout. You can walk anywhere you want. I'd like you to be mindful. There's some tech stuff, and we just want to be, don't be foolish, but like you can move all around. When I ring my cowbell, that's from Switzerland. Yes, it's true. Somebody brought me a cowbell from So when I do that, that's when you know that is the cue to switch. So your blindfold goes on the other person, unless they have their own. No 2 blindfolded persons, okay? 1 blindfolded person at a time. And then you get to go around until I ring the cowbell again, and what does that mean?
Switch.
Not that time. It means just stop, bring them back to their seats, still blindfolded. Now, I don't remember if we did this last year. We may have. But this first section is going to be a little bit of a review from last year. That's only the first part. And then after lunch, or after we eat, it's going to be all new. Okay, but I love the review because I need to remind myself of these things. Come on up, guys. There's rooms, there's spots right here. So, what's the first bell mean? Second one? Bring them back to sit with what on? I have never had a group actually everyone do it right. This would be incredible if this actually happened. Why not, right? You could be the first. I'd go, because I get to go all over the world doing this, and I could go, there's a group in Florida, because some people here go Florida. That's what I noticed. I'm from Canada, and we just shorten everything, and you guys, Florida. So there's this group in Florida that, they go everywhere. Like, they actually followed all the directions. It was crazy, and they had a blast. So on your mark, get set, find a partner, do it. If you don't have a partner, let us know, and Kim or I can be your partner. On your mark, get set, go. As soon as you got your blindfold, you get to start playing the game. Anywhere you go, one person leads, the other person is going to put their arm through them. All right? Nice. If you have glasses, you want to put them in a safe spot. Everyone have a partner? Nope. Does everyone let's see. William's waiting. If you don't have a partner, please put your hand up. Hand up if you don't have a partner.
You want to go first?
Okay, William, you and Kim. Lucky you, William. You get to take Kim anywhere you want.
Easy,
but
buddy.
remember, he's going to switch, so he'll get to take you anywhere he wants to. Okay, walk around. Good job. I see people doing it correctly. Oops. What? Oh, you don't have a partner? Okay, you want to be my partner? Okay, you want to put one on? Oh, wait. Oh, excuse me. Would you be willing to be her partner? Because she needs a partner? Great, go for it.
I have so much power.
So much power. Don't abuse your power, man, because you're going to switch. All right, how's that going? Nice. Do you know each other? So you don't trust each other yet, do you? It's going to go the other way. This way you can lead her. Go for it. Okay, Allie, you can turn the music up if you want, because you're so amazing. If you want. If you don't have music handy, no worries. Interesting way to put the mask on there. Nice. Ooh! William! Cutie. Oh, good job. Woo! Oh, Kim, do you trust William? Do you trust him? Oh no. William, what a guy. Oh my goodness. William, you stinker. He's going to make you pay. Arm. Good job. Blindfolds on! Keep the blindfold on! And you can throw the blindfolds here when you're done. Nice. Yeah, that's great. Sure. Okay, Kim, you can take it off. Nice, thank you, William. All right. Everybody, you can take your blindfolds off now. You can pass them back to the end and somebody can throw them here, or you can bring them here later. But I need you to all put your fists out right now. Thumbs up if you trust your partner more as a result of this exercise or less as a result. How many of you trust the person who took you around the room less? Wow. Okay. Anyone just kind of the same? Okay, same. Oh, less. Okay, I'm curious. Okay, he made you. Okay, so what did people do to make you trust them more? Just think about this a moment. What kind of things did people do or say? Welcome. There's plenty of room right here. What kind of things did people do or say to make you trust them more? Think about it. This is a participation thing, right?
If they told me how many stairs I
If they told you how many stairs you had left, rather than just like walked you into it. So they gave you a little prep. I saw people saying things like, somebody's right in front of you. How many of you loved being blindfolded? Yep. How many of you hated it? Like you hated it? You felt out of control, right? Some of you I saw walking like this, right? I've done this a couple of times, and sometimes I've been somebody's partner, and one time I was Seth's partner, grade 12, and we end up doing fine. He was so grateful he chose me because I was not walking him into lockers like his friends were, right? And we were out in the hallway, we're having a great time, and then all of a sudden, 2 teachers in the classroom distract me. Just walking along, mind my own business. They go, "Hey, Darlene, could you come here?" I went to them, and I totally forgot Seth was on my arm, and I walked him into the door frame, right? Like straight on, poof, his shoulder. And he's trusting me because I'm an adult. I'm the instructor. I should be trusted. Nope, I failed. First words coming out of his mouth, what did he say? Anyone want to guess? No one's ever guessed it. That's so strange. Let's switch. How safe do you think I felt switching? Not at all. You're right. I felt absolutely terrified. I felt like he's lost trust with me, correct? Fair? He lost trust with me, and now he's going to show me what it's like. He takes me out into the hallway, and he runs with me. I saw Kim trying to run with William, but he runs. My hair's longer than it was like flying behind me, and I'm like, ah! And he got me back when the bell rang. He got me back just fine. I didn't get hurt at all. But he takes his blindfold off and he looks at me like, he didn't say it, but his eyes said it. You know how you can communicate with your eyes sometimes? It's basically like, "See, lady, it's not that hard." And you know what? He was right. It's not that hard. I got distracted. Sometimes people aren't trying to hurt us, but they end up losing our trust because they're not paying attention. And fair enough. Some of you might have given me another chance and said, that's okay. But some of you would have gone, yep, I would have liked to switch right away then too. Fair. The first question that you have in life, that if you can't answer it well, it actually makes you really insecure, is who can I trust? Who can I trust? And so some people will say God, and some people will say somebody else. Sometimes people don't say, who can I trust? Sometimes their question is, what can I trust? Sometimes they'll change, what can I trust? I can trust money, or I can trust my mind, or I can trust I work with a lot of hockey schools and some gymnastic schools, and it's like, I can trust my body, right? Because I teach it and I train it to do stuff, and it just works. Here's the problem. If we put our trust in anything or anyone that is fragile, weak, changeable, then we develop an insecurity. Now, that can sound really easy, but a lot of times people don't understand the power of these questions. So I'm going to tell you that how many of you have heard the word discernment? Anyone ever heard the word discernment? It's the ability to be able to determine, is this a good idea or not? Is this person trustworthy or not? And those are big questions in our life, right? Because it can take years to build trust with somebody and seconds to lose it. Am I right? Have you ever lost trust with somebody really quickly, like Seth lost trust with me? He was like, I thought I could trust you. I was a total stranger, but I should have been trustworthy, right? Security is a big deal for all of us, and that question is answered by the the question of who can I trust either makes us more secure or more insecure. I need 2 volunteers. So I'm going to need you to stand up if you're volunteering, because I'm looking for 2 people of the same height. Okay? Let's see. Is there some? Okay. No, you stand up because we might have another person of your height. Okay. I'm going to choose, just because same height? Okay. Yeah, I'm going to choose you 2, if that's all right. Okay? So you 2, come on up. I'm going to stand you on these chairs. I want you to stand on them. Is that all right? You okay with that? Okay. So you're going to stand on these chairs, and you're going to turn around and look at everybody. And I'm going to change your names. Is that all right? Because I'm not talking about you. You're going to represent.
Okay.
Cool? Okay. So you are going to be Susie. Is any Susie here? Okay. Sally. Any Sallys here? Okay. This is Susie and Sally, and they're besties. They've been wonderful friends ever since they were little, because they live next door to each other. They go to the same school. They have great times. They love playing street hockey, actually, with their friends out there, and they love doing their homework together, because they don't love homework. You know what I'm saying? But they want to have choices in life, so they do their homework together. They also do chores together sometimes, because one of them hates laundry, but they're responsible to. How many of you have families with a lot of laundry? And how many of you have to help with the laundry? And so they're like, I'm so sick of trying to find the other socks. I think that's where mismatched socks becoming cool became the thing, because forget it. We're just gonna. Is that cool here? Because in Canada, mismatched socks is very cool. No, it's not
just
cool.
kind of the norm because no one can find that.
Okay, so it's a default thing. Gotcha. So they help each other with chores. They help each other choose outfits to go on set. It's like, does this look good? They help each other with a lot of things. They help each other figure out problems with their families, right? Because sometimes, can family be difficult? Every once in a while, I'm not saying all the time, but just sometimes, right? So they're like, here, why don't you try this? Why don't you say this? So they give ideas. And the other thing is, the way you can tell of who they really are is how they treat Mrs. Flahanahan. She lives at the neighbor across the street. Mrs. Flahanahan has loads of cats. And so she's kind of an unusual but funny lady. She's really sweet, and she likes to save money. So she overloads her grocery bags, brings them. Has anyone ever had overload grocery bags break? Anyway, her breaks every time. And the girls will run across the street, and Sally and Susie will be like, hey, can we help you, Miss Fine? And she'll go, you girl, you're such a good girl. Stand up if anyone has ever pinched your cheeks. Stay standing if you like it. Right? Wait, you don't mind
I
it?
don't know.
Okay, do you like it?
Yeah, it's
That-
actually kind of, I just know that I'm loved when I do.
That's really great, because I've never had any. You don't even know him, so that you get. Oh, it's so weird. I was just changing my little. He's 2, my grandson's diapers, and after he was finished, he comes in and he goes, "Thanks," and he pinches my cheeks. I'm like, "Where did you get that?" Anyway, so that's okay. So she'd pinch your cheeks, go, "You girls are so sweet," and then when the cats would climb up in the tree, because cats do that, these girls would get out there and they would try to get those cats down for Mrs. Flahanahan. Yes! Really kind. They have scratches to prove it. Pull up their
Yeah.
all kinds of scratches. Yeah, fell out of the tree, just trying to get the stupid cat down. And so that's who they are. But then something happened. Sally went away for the summer. Sally, can you step down? And something happened. Her values changed. I'd like you to stand next to Susie. And we could tell the way she changed by the way she treated her family. Her whole family, who wants to get along with your family? Family's a bunch of losers, right? Who wants to do homework? Homework's lame. She was like, let me see. Oh, hey, is that not doing that? Homework's lame. What else who wants to go outside and actually, play street hockey or anything? I don't want to do that. She's like, I just want to work on my thumbs. I'm just going to exercise my thumbs all the time. That's on Pinterest, So she's changed. She's suddenly like, who are you? She doesn't really want to spend time doing stuff. She just wants to spend time on her screens most of the time, because it's just like, this is more interesting. And she's like, you're with me. Why are you on your phone all the time? And then the biggest deal, though, Mrs. Flahanahan. Suddenly, when Mrs. Flanagan comes home from grocery shopping and exits the car, you see Susie. This is going to be bad, Susie. Just prepare. Is it Susie? Are you Susie? Sally, sorry. Sally pulls out her phone and she starts to video it because it's going to be a fail, epic fail, and then she can put it online and there'll be so many, likes and, right? So she's going to exploit poor Mrs. Flanagan. And she has come to find out how many rocks she can hit the cats in the trees with before Susie gets it. She has changed. Am I right? I'm not going to ask you to show of hands, but some of you have had friends that changed. And it may have happened really quickly or really slowly, and you're like, what happened? But they're still living next door. They're still friends. So what does this look like? I want you to turn towards each other. Put your arms out. I want you to grab each other's forearms. Okay? And if I said pull, who would win? Or her? Which one? Which one would win? Sally or Susie? Sally. Why? She's lower. She's got gravity on her side. It's just easier. It's not as easy to try to get along with your family. It's not as easy to, actually go outside and do stuff. It's not as easy to do the work that you've been asked to do and agreed to do. It's not as easy to step out of yourself and think about somebody else. It's not as easy. This is easier. So if she would choose to try to pull her down, she would have more success. Now, what could we do to set up Susie so she's less vulnerable? We could probably make her platform bigger, right? We could take this whole section here. You can be her friends and hold on to her. She has less chance of getting pulled down, right? But if she's trying to pull her up, can you change somebody? Can you control somebody and change them? We can influence people, right? But sometimes we want to control somebody, right? Even God doesn't control people. He gives us choice. And so even if you would try to pull this person up, it could be pretty exhausting. All she has to do is do a dead, have you ever kind of gone limp, right? And that's like, she'd kind of get extra heavy. And if you pull her up, what's going to stop her from stepping back down again, right? This is a hard thing, though. It's hard when people we care about change in a way that actually starts pulling us down. So the question I have for all of you, I want you to think about this. And I'm going to invite you to answer these questions on your first page. Is there anybody that's pulling me down right now? Now, if they're sitting right next to you, I'm not expecting you to put their name on there or anything. In fact, we're going to use just initials, but I'd like you to put the question down there, if that's okay. Is anyone pulling me down? Can we just give these guys a hand before we start our... Thank you, seriously. Thank you for volunteering. That was great. Couldn't have done it without you. I would have been jumping back and forth. It would have been all weird, right? So essentially, you're asking, is anyone, and this is the question on my screen, but you get to ask yourself, is anyone pulling me down? You want to put it beside the chair. If you're going to take notes, you want to put these things beside the chair. So is anyone pulling me down? Is anyone pulling me up? Probably should have changed that, hey? And just think about it. And if you don't want to write in right now, if you don't have a pen, shoot. The reason that this is important for you to actually write some of this stuff out is not just for you, okay? But because you're influential, whether you realize it or not, there are people who are going to need help from you in life. And if you just ask this question of them, you can help them a lot. You watch a friend that's really struggling with somebody else, and you can just ask, instead of going, that person's bad for you, and then you're the baddie, right? You get to go, is this person pulling you up or down? And they get to give the answer. You're not trying to tell them what is true, but you get to ask them, is this person pulling you up or down? But right now I'm asking you, who's pulling you up? Who's pulling you down? Is there somebody in your life who actually, when you leave after spending time with them, it's worse. You feel kind of embarrassed about what you did. You hope nobody was recording what you said. You actually feel crummier about yourself, or you feel like embarrassed of what you did say or do towards other people. Just an important thing to ask ourselves. And then, are there people in your life that pull you up? That when you're around them, you're like, wow, I like who I am. No one's going to mark these. No one's taking these in. This is your personal, right? I'm going to ask you to put your name on the very front. The only reason is because when we stop for supper, if you don't take it with you, I don't want somebody else picking yours up. Does that make sense? Just put your name on the front. But it's yours. I'm not looking at it. It's none of my business. This is between you and you. Okay? And then the other question you get to ask on the other side of the chair is there anyone I'm pulling up, or is there anyone I'm pulling down? Here's the danger. If I'm trying to pull somebody up and they don't want to come, what can happen to me? If I'm trying to pull, you can fall down, just like you were standing up there. And if she was really pulling, that was not a very big chair I had you go on. And it wouldn't take much, whereas suddenly you started doing things and saying things that you're not actually proud of. It wouldn't take much. Are there people that I'm pulling up or I'm pulling down? That's a decision. Those are questions you get to ask for yourself. Because in life, there's important relationship questions. What I do when I go around the world is I talk about relationships. Tonight is a little different. I'm going to expand that. There's 2 of them that's really heavy on relationships, but I'm going to expand it to other things. Who's trustworthy, who's not? Who's on my side and who's not? Who should I give a second chance to? Because if they make mistakes, like we all do, is that an honest mistake they made, or do they have a pattern of this kind of behavior? And who should I stay away from because they've proven they're not good for me? These are your questions. If you want to write them down, you can. If you want to later on take your phone out and ask me to take a picture of this, you can do that. But there's no pressure on that. I want to give you a moment to think about it. Who's pulling me up and who's pulling me down? Those are the questions at the bottom there. Okay. And sometimes we can beat ourselves up because we didn't have discernment. We're like, oh, I thought I could trust them. I told them something, and then they blabbed it everywhere. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, shoot. And we can start to beat ourselves up. That's not cool. We're learning. We're always learning. And even Jesus, did he get betrayed? Yeah. Do you think he liked being betrayed? Now, I shouldn't assume, I don't want to assume, that all of you are followers of Jesus. That's cool. These activities are great even if you're not. And when Kim and I ask you to ask Jesus questions about things, Jesus likes talking to people who aren't following him as well. And he's God. He can talk to each person individually so that they understand. He's amazing. I gotta tell you. That's why I like him so much. So let's just talk for one moment on what do you do if somebody has proven they're not good for me? Well, I get asked this a lot by teenagers. How do I break up with a friend? But I don't want to be rude or disrespectful or anything, and I really care about them. So here's what I suggest. Don't break up with them. Give them a choice. So do you see what I'm saying here? When you're making a change or taking a stand, you're saying, I'm not going to do this anymore, or I want to do this instead. Let's say you're with friends who are consistently mocking other people, and you're like, I want to stop that because I'm feeling crummy about myself when I walk away from you. And I'm feeling really insecure because if you're making fun of other people, you're probably making fun of me behind my back. You know what I'm saying? It's a really good probability. So I'm going to change. So I've been rethinking things, and I've decided I'm going to make this change. I'm going to stop bad-mouthing people. I'm going to encourage people instead. So I would love you to make this change with me. Our relationship is really important to me. Would you be willing to do that? And then you're giving them a choice. And you respect their decision, because you can't change anybody, you can influence them. And if they want to be influenced, they can go, yeah, actually, okay, cool. And you're saying, I really want you to come with me. But if they say no, you respect their choice and you keep doing what's best for you. Do you think that's possible? Do you think you could do that? Because you're inviting them to something, you're not rejecting them, but we're letting them choose. Okay, so that's about friendships. But when we're talking about who can I trust, what in the world? Look at that black all over me. Okay, when we're talking about who can I trust, this is my favorite example. How many of you remember the theater? Okay, cool. So some of you do. Cool. And you're going to find your theater. I kind of printed one out for you. It's kind of, actually, Mrs. Pooch-Farron did all this. She created this with me, but it's pretty cool. So here on this side, so your skill is that word discernment. Up on top of who can I trust, that word that you can put up there is security. Because you feel secure if you have somebody or something trustworthy in your life. And you feel insecure if you're like, I don't know if this is true or not. Okay? And then on this side, we have kind of like a little stage with a theater. So, how many of you have been on stage for any reason? How many of you have never been on stage? Okay. Anyone else not been on stage? Okay, what's your name? Sam, I want you to come up here, and I want you to stand up here so you can be on stage just for a moment, so you can say you've been on stage. It'll just take a second. Did I embarrass you too bad? Is that too bad? Just for a sec. You can just stand up here, look out at everybody. Got an idea now? Yay, Sam's been on stage! Woo! Okay, so how well can you see people if you're looking at this stage here? Okay, this would be really intimidating, right? And it's full of people. How many of you got to choose the people in your life? How many? Okay, let me be specific. How many of you got to choose your family? How many of you got to choose the people in this room? How many of you got to choose your neighbors? Yeah, you got to choose. No? You don't get to go, okay, you have a loud dog. You got to go. No, that doesn't work. Okay. Shoot. As you grow up, unless you own your own business, how many of you are going to get to choose who you work with? Right? So if you look ahead, this picture in your life will be stocked full of people you didn't choose. By the time you're 90, you'll probably be able to fill the whole auditorium. At this age, you might be able to fill the whole first floor. All the people that have been in your life, said something, did something, made a difference in your life in any way, shape, or form, good or bad. You're standing on stage, you're living your life. This is filled with the people in your life. How well can you see the people in the back row?
Not that good.
If the room is filled and the people in the back row are going, oh, you're so boring. Like, can you even see them? If they're making fun of you, at the back of that theater, not a chance. How about if the room is filled, people are talking, how well can you hear what they're saying? You stink. You're an idiot. Can you hear that? No. But how well can you hear and see the people in your front row? Really well. And here's the thing. I described this not based on who you like or love, but who you want to advise you in your life. Like or love is a whole different, you can draw, oh, these are my favorite people. That's great. This is not the theater. This is about advising. And here are the 3 criteria that you can fill out at the top of page 2. Okay? Here's your criteria. Who do you trust and respect to advise you to make great choices? I'm sorry that I put the word help in there. I should have changed it to advise, so I'll change it, okay? Oh, bother. Why does it being sinky? See? Oh, well, you know. You can use help or you can use advise. Because I want to be really specific. People get confused so easily. They think this is about like or love, and it's not. Who do you trust and respect to help you make great choices? So that means a person has to have a track record in terms of trust, because it's really, there's somebody who's made mistakes, but they've earned their way back to you being able to trust. And who do you respect? Who do you think highly of? Who do you go, oh, I want to be like them? And I suggest you consider very few people in your front row, okay? Don't fill it up. There's just too many voices. You can have tons of people in your second, third, fourth, fifth, but don't have too many people in your front row. Who believes in you is the other one. And then who wants the best for you? So this means these have to be people you actually know, not people on social media, not famous celebrities, unless they personally know you. Because otherwise, how do you know that they're thinking about you? And how do they even know what's best for you? You are one of a kind. There's no one else in the world like you. You're irreplaceable. There are people you're going to touch I will never, ever get to know. You're going to affect their life. I will never even meet them. Right? You don't want to tell people that you're moving them out of your front row. If in this moment you go, wow, I think I've let people into my front row who make me feel small, weak, and want to quit. I don't think I should be having them in my front row. Do not go and tell them that. Don't say, I'm moving you out of my front row, because they're just going to get mad at you. You know what I'm saying? This is not something you share with people. This is something is very private. You get to decide, and you decide it in your head, and you might have to check it out every once in a while. I was explaining this to a principal, and she said, stop! I was like, okay, I'm in the principal's office. I'm a grown woman, but I'm feeling like I'm a little kid. I'm like, okay. And then I watch her face, and this is what she's doing. Okay, you can continue. I just had to move some people out of my front row. I don't know what I was doing laying them in there. I don't trust or respect them. They don't believe in me. They don't want the best for me. Continue. I'm like, wow, she just did it right there. She understood anyone who makes you feel small or weak or want to quit will actually negatively impact you. Like I said at the beginning, if you believe something that's not true, if you give power to a person or a thing that is not stable, then you actually set up yourself for insecurity. How many of you have ever done track and field? Okay. So I was actually a pretty decent high jumper. A smaller school, went to an inter-school track meet, and I was hitting provincial, I live in Canada, we have provinces as opposed to states, hitting provincial highs, so my team was really excited for me. And my coach was like, yes, you're going to do this. And I'm standing up there ready for my very first jump. And all of a sudden behind me is a stranger I've never met before who leans over my shoulder and goes, psst, you're going to fail. Nobody had coached me in the whole idea that sometimes you can let people get in your head in sports and your performance goes down just because that person psyched you out. No one had really talked to me about that, and I didn't even have a moment. The whistle blew for me to make my first jump, and before I even got to think about it, my muscle memory kicked in, I started running. Do you know how low the bar is on the first jump in a high jump? It's pretty much touching the bag. Like nobody misses it. It is just a warm-up. I knocked it over. Never in my life had I knocked it over. I was in shock. My coach was like, what? As I'm walking back to the back, because you get 2 shots at it, my teammates are like, what? And the girl who was behind me who said, you're going to fail, she cleared it no problem and is snickering the whole time. Standing behind me as I wait for like 14, 15 girls, and she's giggling, and I totally lost my nerve, and I kicked over the next one, and I walked away. I never high jumped again. The next year I went to another school, didn't even try out. I let the wrong person in my front row. You know what I'm saying? I explained this to a guy named Finn. Not personally, but I was speaking at an event on a weekend, and he texted me a couple days later. Okay, and he gave me permission to share this with you. So I'm at a triple jump. and there's only 3 people there, and 3 qualify for regionals, and we're jumping, and this kid is trash talking me. You know what I mean by trash talking? That's not just a Canadian thing, right? You know what trash talking is? Like, you're an idiot. Okay. Trash talking me. And he gets in my head, and I end up getting 3rd. And he says some other snarky remarks and stuff, and even though I was only a centimeter behind him, I was discouraged. Flash forward a week after I heard you speak, and it's the night before Valleys, and I'm nervous, so Mom and Dad and I prayed that I wouldn't be affected by his words, and he wouldn't get in my head. And the next day, he's still being a jerk. And right before my first jump, he says, "I hope you fail." So I was kind of expecting this. So I tell him, "Well, maybe I do fail, but I hope you do well, and I'll be cheering you on." He's taken aback by this, and I jump, and I do well. The same kind of thing keeps happening until on my last jump, I'm getting ready, and he says, "Hey, I hope you do well." And I'm really happy because he's being nice. And I'm like, "Well, hey, I hope you do great as well, bro." And I triple jump ends, and I get 3rd, and I think he gets 5th. And only the top 4 qualify. So he's out of the race. At my next event, long jump, I'm just kind of stretching and encouraging myself when I see him walking up, and it's the dude from triple jump. And he's like, "Hey, are you jumping well?" And I say a little surprised, "Yeah." And he says, "I hope you do really well." And I say, "Thanks, man." We kind of chat for a bit, and then he walks off. The next jump that I do, I beat my personal best, and I end up getting 1st. When I explain this to a hockey team, I read that out. One of the guys goes, "Why didn't you just punch him?" I was like, well, because then he would have lowered himself. Remember the higher and low? You would have lowered himself to just be like that, and he wouldn't have been proud of himself afterwards. And there's no guarantee that you're going to change somebody, but did he change somebody? He influenced that guy. Like I said, there's no guarantee, but he, no matter what, could be proud of himself. And he didn't let that person in his front row. You get to decide. You're the only person who gets to decide who you're going to listen to. And you may have some very loud voices. There are very loud voices out there. They are trying to get you to do what they want. And sometimes they have what's in your best interest. Sometimes they believe in you. Sometimes they want the best for you. Sometimes they are somebody you can trust and respect. But a lot of times, they don't fit that criteria. So this is something I need to check out regularly. I'll finish with a story. Walter was 14 years old. He was on a hunting trip with his uncles. Some of you remember this story. On his hunting trip with his uncles, and he was in the forest, and this is in Canada, and he stepped on a big piece of metal with a piece of rust in it. What happens when rust gets into your system? Tetanus. What's the first sign of tetanus? Lockjaw. Someone who couldn't talk, and his uncles knew right away he's in trouble. Because if you don't get help, at that year, only 2 people had survived from tetanus in Canada. So they threw him in the back of the pickup, and I get asked, why did they throw him in the back of the pickup? Because they needed to stretch him out because his back was starting to make snapping sounds. What happens if your back breaks? You could die or be paralyzed. Neither really great options. So he hasn't even hit his growth spurt yet. A lot of guys don't even hit their growth spurts till 20. So he's like 14, and his 3 uncles are sitting on him to keep his back straight. But by the time they get 2 hours away to the hospital, there's this much space between the bed of the truck and his back. That's how strong he is while he's convulsing. Does that make sense? 3 adults that are completely drenched in sweat by the time they arrive at the hospital, and they're like, ah. They're trying to keep his back straight so he doesn't get paralyzed. What you need to know about Walter is that he came from a family of 6, and all of his siblings died by the age of 2, in part because of his father's abuse and neglect. But his father was a very charming man, like super charming. And when he met his mother, who was an immigrant and an orphan, he charmed her, and they went off, lived, created kind of like a homestead. So that means they're breaking new land, and she was isolated. Back then, there were no services from the government, no shelters for her to go to, and she actually became a really safe place for other people. She had a reputation of being an amazing person. She didn't let her husband bring her down. Walter woke up after 2 months in a coma. I talked to the nurse who was there when he woke up, years later. And she said he was so frail, but he woke up and he saw his father sitting on his left-hand side of his bed and his mother on his right. And he was like, if I would have died, I would have died being like my dad. Oh, I don't want to be like him. See, he didn't love his dad, but he loved his dad like you love your dad. But I mean, he didn't respect his dad, but he was so focused on his dad, hated his dad so much he was starting to become like him, because what we focus on, we become like. He didn't realize he'd put his dad in his front row. And he was kind of so focused, he went, I actually want to be more like my mom. And he knew that his mom loved God. And he was like, I'm going to check this out. So he started talking to God. He started reading his Bible. He started changing. So much so that years later, about, I don't know, it was 8 years later, he met Elizabeth. And he, even though he hadn't seen a good example of marriage, he was like, I want a life with this woman. So he just kind of, I'm going to take the risk and ask if I can date her. And her family was like, I don't know, because they knew about his father. And his friends said, no. Before his near-death experience, he was just like his father. But after, he changed. He totally changed. And he and Elizabeth went on to marry. And she would say that he treated her like gold in private and in public. They were best friends who started many businesses, gave most of their money away, mostly to kids' camps, because Walter knew that not all kids are living in safe homes. The stories that came out when he passed away years later of people who had been affected by him, who he'd taken to the grocery store and said, hey, go. The kids would get one grocery basket and the parents would get a different one because, they were struggling at that time. Kids would choose a whole different bunch of stuff in a grocery store oftentimes than parents. Stories of him stopping a guy when he's trying to fill up his car with gas and saying, hey, dude, your tires, they look bald. And you can't have bald tires in Canada because we have ice in our mountains, right? And the guy said, yeah, I'm in college. I don't have any money. And he goes, okay. So he paid for his gas and he bought him new tires. Like, these are real stories that Walter did. And his kids. He had a son and a daughter. And his son said, my dad's my hero. The opposite of what Walter experienced, right? My dad is my hero. In the companies, he showed me all the books and he showed me how he could cheat people. He said, we're never going to cheat anybody, though. Just because you know this. I want you to know how that's possible, and we're never going to do that. And his daughter grew up believing that she could be respected. She only dated guys who treated her well, right? Because she had watched her father treat her mother well. His father never changed. His father lived to be very old. His mother passed away when his kids were really young, and he remarried like Cruella de Vil, like the first movie. I don't know if you've ever seen the first. Ugh, she was a piece of work. Anyways, she was a nasty lady, and he stayed nasty right till the day he died, pretty much. Like, Walter went in and said to him, hey, Dad, I love you. And his dad's response was, I never hated you. That was the closest he got to hearing anything kind from his dad. But Walter lived a completely different life. How do I know this story is true? How do I know this is for real and not just somebody saying nice stuff? Because Walter's my dad. Walter's my father. And at 14, he broke the cycle of abuse in our family so that I grew up in a completely different home than him. Completely. It's because he put Jesus front and center in his row. And he only let people close to the front who looked and acted like Jesus. So even though my father passed away a few years ago, his words are still in my head. You can do anything, Darlene. He'd say stuff like that. He'd only seen women being treated horribly growing up. But because he was following Jesus, he knew how incredible women are. You get to choose who you're going to put in your front row. I'm going to strongly suggest to you, that you put at least a couple people, keep it small, I only have 3. Kim's in my front row because he consistently pushes me towards Jesus. My dad's still in my front row, and Jesus. I have lots of people in my second, third, fourth, but this has nothing to do with like or love. Whose advice do you trust? Does that make sense? And I strongly suggest that the people you put in your front row, you at least have a couple of people who are over the age of 30. Why? What does that have to do with anything? It's called the prefrontal cortex. The last part of our brain to develop. Okay? That doesn't mean it has anything to do with intelligence. You might be way smarter than people over 30. But the last part of our brain to develop is the prefrontal cortex, and that part of the brain actually needs to attach to the rest of the brain, and it is called our braking system. It's our braking system. And what it does, it helps us decide, is what I'm thinking of doing right now a good idea or not? And we'll talk about that more later. But actually it allows us to stop and think for the moment. How many of you remember when you were littler and you did some dumb stuff? And you're like, what was I thinking? We weren't, right? Have you been around little kids in pools? Right? They're not thinking. You get older, you go, okay, you need to stop and think before you just walk off into the pool. How many of you have ever babysat a kid who wants to just walk on the street? You're like, It's because the reason that you have stopped and thought is because your prefrontal cortex is bigger than theirs, or it's more attached. And by the age of 25, they're saying up to 25 to 30, your prefrontal cortex will be completely attached so that you stop and think about what you're doing right now and how it affects the future. Now, that doesn't mean the people around you are dumb. That just means sometimes they're not stopping and thinking. And stopping and thinking is not the same thing as worrying. It's just considering options. So, do I believe in 14-year-olds being able to change the course of history for other people? Yes. Do I believe in 14-year-old guys? Yes. Because at that age is where my dad made a decision that affected my life, my brother's life, our family's lives, my kids' lives, now my grandkids' lives, and every person we touch. But it all depends on who you put in your front row. So this is your assignment while you eat. Okay? I'm going to invite you back in half an hour, which means 25 to, okay, because it's 5 after now. 25 to, I'm going to invite you back, and I'm going to invite you to really think about this. Go ahead and eat, but then I'm going to ring a bell where you get to kind of separate and take like 5 minutes to think about who you want in your front row. Sometimes people do 2 of these theaters. Sometimes they do, this is who is, and then they go, but this is who should be. And some people use just, I would suggest you not use full names, but you just might want to use initials or whatever. And I ask you not to share this or ask people to share this with you. Don't go up to your friend and go, are you in my front row? It's a bad idea because they don't have their prefrontal cortex developed. They're awesome. This is nothing. This is advisors. You know what I'm saying? Like, where are you going to go to school and what kind of person you want to share your life with, and you know what I'm saying? I know I keep saying that. I'll stop saying. You know what I'm saying? Okay? Break? Yes? So make sure your name is on the front so that, and you can put it down where you are. No one's going to come and look at yours. But in 20 minutes, I'm going to ring the bell, and you get to come grab them, and I'm going to send you off anywhere you want, and you can kind of work on yours for a little bit. But you can be thinking about it now. All right? Jesus, thank you for food. Thank you for taste buds. Yes?
Yes.
Does anyone not have taste buds? Because sometimes people have accents and stuff. Okay, thank you for taste buds. Thank you for Chick-fil-A. Thank you for my friends. Amen. I hate that. I have a friend who was in a car accident, 5 years. He can't taste anything.
Oh gosh.
Okay? You're thinking about that?
Yeah. This is my thing. I have family in the Lord at the front. Next I have friends.
You going to start with the microphone? Here you go, babe.
All right. So you filled out your 3 criteria. Does anyone not have a booklet? Does anyone not have a booklet? Okay, you fill out your 3 criteria. You get to figure that out. At the bottom of the 3 criteria, though, it says it's not about what or what. Do you know what that is? I said it a couple of times. It's not about like or love. So if you feel bad going, but I love this person, I want them in my front row. Yeah, but if you can't trust or respect them, it's not about like or love. If you can't trust or respect them to help you make great choices, or if they don't believe in you or want the best for you, then it's not a good idea. You're actually going to sabotage yourself, right?
Okay.
So I'm going to give you a couple minutes on that. And then Kim's going to, then my husband, my cutie, my man, he's going to be next.
Shucks.
Yep, I like him so much. Crazy. Oh, wait. I just wanted to share with you, as you're doing this, as you're thinking about this, wisdom is carefully considering who to put in your front row. And the last part is become the kind of person other people want in their front row. So if you want to, you can become the kind of person that they go, man, I want you in my front row because I trust and respect your choices. You believe in me. You want the best for me. Did you get a booklet? You did? Cool. Does anyone need a pen? Okay. One. Okay.
So this assignment, what we're looking for on this page is for you to put little boxes in the rows. Little seats in the rows, and then you put people's names by those boxes. So that you might want to hide this from your neighbors because they're going to want to find out if they're in your front row. Where did you put me? No. That's an illegal question. Okay? And if your grandma's way in the back here, put your grandma way in the back. Sorry, Grandma.
You might love her to bits.
And there might be a guy. Is there anyone named Eddie here? Is there any Eddies in the room?
Don't. Kim.
Okay,
Don't know.
I got a bunch of Eddies in the back row of my life. It's just, that's where Eddies go. If your dad's name's Eddie, he's probably a great guy. But I pay close attention as to where people are. So go ahead and put boxes in your theater and then put names by where people are. There you go. There you go. And you can put people in the back row. You can like these people. You can love these people. But they're in the back. They're not going to give you advice. You may have a brother that you love who's addicted to drugs. You may have a brother that you love who is addicted to drugs. You're not going to get his advice for investments. What should I do with my money? Oh, I'm going to give it to me, man. I'll take care of it for you. Okay? What if he's rich? You can receive money from him, but don't put him in your front row. Right? Because he's not worthy of your trust. Remember the questions? Who do you want in your front row? Who do you trust and respect to help you make great choices? Who wants the best for you? Now, the second part of this assignment is you may need to move people around. You might realize that you have somebody in your front row or second row who shouldn't be there. You might have a friend who makes fun of you all the time. That person in my world, his name is Mark. Mark would make fun of me every time we got together. And he would go, did you get those clothes on sale? I hope you got those clothes on sale because that's the worst outfit I've seen ever. And I'm like, dude, this is like my best outfit. He goes, you look horrible, dude. And I'm like, who cares? Next time I come over, he's like, man, where did you find that outfit, man? That's just the worst. Next time I came over, same thing, dude. And he's always dressed in the latest fashions or whatever. So the fourth time, I'm like, I I don't know if you want to be my friend, but if you want to be my friend, you making fun of what I wear has got to stop. Otherwise, it's not going to work for me. What was happening is that he was going back a row every time we got together. And I'm like, he doesn't really care about me. He just really cares about fashion more than he cares about me. And you can care about fashion. I'm not saying that's wrong. That's just, he put that as more important than me. And he goes, well, I was just trying to help you. I'm like, no, you're putting me down. And I don't like it. So if you want to be my friend, this stops. Guess what I got for Christmas? A new outfit from Mark. And he never made fun of my clothes again. And guess what? Mark got moved up a few. I don't tell Mark, you're getting pushed to the back of the theater. No. I have other people, they make fun of me all the time. They're not in my front rows at all. Or I hear about them making fun of other people. No, not going to do it. Or, hey, man, do you think you could steal a candy bar? I really want a candy bar. I got no money. Would you steal it for me? Not in my front row. Because they don't care. They don't care. They're not here to help me with great choices. They don't want the best for me. They're okay if I get arrested, so they get a chocolate bar. No, I'm not hanging out with you much more. You don't have to say much, but just like, no, I'm not doing this. So this actually is what you're going to have for the rest of your life. There was 1 year where I moved about 10 people out of my front row. I had way too many people in my front row. I was like, they all have different voices and different, and I just got all confused. I'm like, wait a minute, I don't think you guys actually care about me. So I moved 10 people out of my front row, and now I have very few people in my front row, but they are solid people. Does this make sense? Is this starting to make sense? So throughout your life, you're going to be moving people around. And when you meet that special someone that you actually want to date, and they're actually kind, you trust and respect them to help you make great choices, they believe in you, they want the best for you, you might go, I think I'm going to move them up a row or two and see how this works. And then before you say, I do, I would recommend that they are solid in your front row. That's who you want. So what was the first question? You can actually take, this is an open book. What was the first question we dealt with? There's 5 questions we're going to deal with tonight. What was the first one? Who can I trust? Thank you. Who answered that? Well done. Appreciate the... Okay, turn the page. I don't know what page it is for you. For me, it's number 3. For you, it could be number 260. I don't know what's going on in your book. But this one's called Who Am I? Oh, you can write the word belonging on the line above that. Okay, who am I? That's a question we're dealing with right now. Oh, we're going to change it. Cross off belonging, and put in the word identity. Okay, above who am I? Above who am I, we're going to put the word identity. Okay. I did pretty good in grade 5. Grade 5 was a pretty solid year for me. I had my best friend, his name is Jacob, and we would go out into the farm field and shoot each other with BB guns. It was pretty fun. Have you ever been shot with a BB gun? No. Who's been shot with a BB gun? I do not recommend this behavior. You've been shot. What is this with this state? Seriously, put your hand up if you've been shot by a BB gun. I've never seen this before. Are you? Oh man, you guys are my people, but don't do it. Okay? No, because you could lose an eye, you could lose an ear, you could lose an arm somehow, okay? But Jacob and I, and you know what else we would do? We would get into our sleeping bags the wrong way. Do you guys know what sleeping bags are? And by the way, if you do have cell phones, we're going to want you to put those away. This is not time for cell phone time. But we would get into our sleeping bags the wrong way, and there's a little hole at the end that you could open up with your fingers, and then we would move toward each other with our sleeping bags, and then when we would find each other, we would pound each other, and we'd just like two hands, and we'd pound until we couldn't pound anymore, and then Jacob would go, ow, 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 and then he'd get on top of me, and he would, so grade 5 was pretty good. Grade 6, grade 7, I moved from Oregon to Michigan. Now, if you're from Michigan, I'm not against you. It's just a rough state. Okay, it's just a rough state. And I remember showing up in Michigan and no one liked me. I remember walking into the bathroom and somebody punched me in the face, and I woke up like 10 minutes later, knocked out. I mean, I remember getting into people like, who are going to fight you at noon? And you're like, don't fight me. It was horrible. Okay, grade 7 was the worst. And I started to live in fear. And I started to go, okay, who am I? And I try to be what everyone thought I should be. And people are like, oh, we need somebody to join the swim team. I'm like, oh, I'll join the swim team. Right? And I swam my heart out, and then I couldn't go to one swim meet, and then they just all called me names, and then they made me eat lunch by myself for 4 months. Right? And I'm like, grade 7 was brutal. And I'm like, I don't know who I am. And then somebody said, oh, Kim, you're tall. You should play basketball. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll play basketball. So we're in suburbs of Detroit, and I'm on the basketball team. I'm playing center. Now, if you know anything about basketball, there's March Madness, I know. And so I'm there in the middle. I remember one time this guy was so fast. I'm standing there guarding him, because this is the right, okay. I'm standing there guarding him, and all I remember is he was there, and then I heard the sound of the ball going through the net. And I'm like, what just happened? And I was the worst basketball player in the history of basketball, but I was just trying to find out who I was. And I would come into a room, and I'm like, oh, okay, who do I need to be now? Oh, people are trying to be funny. Okay, I'll try and be funny. And like, yeah, well, I'm funny now, and I would do stupid stuff. Okay? And I tried to get girls to like me. I thought, okay, that's the way I'm going to be like. And so I lived in a city called Campbell River, and I remember taking Miss Campbell River out for lunch. Some other girl had told me I looked nice in my blue suit. So every Sunday, guess what? I wore my light blue suit. This is going to impress the ladies. It didn't really work, but anyway, I thought it did. I took out Miss Campbell River. In the middle of our lunch, a bird pooped on my light blue suit. And I'm like, I'm just horrified. I'm like, this is not working. And then I tried to get another girl to like me, and I tried to get another girl to like me, and then I saw Darlene. Can we just have a moment? She was dressed in a blue jumpsuit leading some games, and I'm like, oh, Jesus, thank you. Well done, Jesus. I think this is, I didn't talk to her for 2 months. I didn't really stalk her. So I'm not like that. But I just kind of watched her to see, who she kind of hung out with and what she was like. And then I wrote her a note. And my handwriting is so bad that I signed it, and she's like, I don't know what this note says, but it's from some girl named Kim. And I'm like, oh, man. I thought for sure I'd get her with the note. And then finally I asked her on a date, and guess what she said? No. I asked her on another date, and guess what she said? No. So I asked her on another date, and I got on my blue suit, and we went on a date. And we were going to the ballet, which is a bad idea for a first date. They don't wear enough clothes at a ballet, I've just got to tell you. So we were on our way to the ballet, and this was in Saskatchewan, up in Canada, and there are hardly any hills in Saskatchewan. It's the flat prairies. And I was so nervous because I didn't know who I was. Remember, every different context, I'm trying to become something that people will like. I'm trying to be funny, or I'm trying to be smart, or I'm trying to be sporty, or I'm trying to be handsome, or I'm trying to be musical, or I'm trying to be smart, or I'm trying to be something for people to like me. And so I thought I'd be, I don't know, unique. And so on the trip to this ballet, I got so nervous. I saw this, there's this overpass over some train tracks, and it was in the middle of winter, and there's snow everywhere, and I pulled the car over in my blue suit, and I ran out to the side of the road, and I rolled down the hill in my blue suit on my way to the ballet because I was so nervous about dating Darlene. She was like amazing, right? I'm like, I want to, but I was so nervous, I didn't know what to do, so I just did a stupid thing. Have you ever done a stupid thing just to try to fit in? Everyone nod your head. You've worn some stupid clothes, you've said some stupid things, you've done some stupid things just to try to fit in. And I don't know how in my brain I thought rolling down a hill in the snow would be fitting in, but it was something. And I had to do it, right? And I was like, okay, I just got to do this. And I was like, I was so freaking out inside. But no one could tell on the outside. On the outside, I looked pretty confident. On the inside, I was dying. I was dying all the time. I felt also I had super anxiety a lot because I was afraid that people would reject me. And some of you guys know what I'm talking about. You have anxiety inside, and you come into this room, and even some of you guys tonight, it's like, oh, are my friends here? Oh, I don't really know anybody. Oh, man, I'm scared. Oh, what am I going to do? I don't fit in. Who am I? Do I belong here? What is my identity? I don't know. So I'm trying to find that, does Darlene like me? And because she was, from my perspective, the most beautiful woman on the campus at my college. And so I'm like, hey, if I can get her, then everyone's going to think that I'm something, right? That was my who am I? But then the next year she left to go to California, go to seminary, and I'm like, oh, I don't know, my identity just left. My girlfriend just left. Now I'm nobody again. And I became anxious. And I stopped eating food. And I developed bleeding stomach ulcers. And I went into anxiety and depression in a really profound way. And I started to skip classes. I stopped seeing my friends. And I started just to pray a lot. Now, my prayers didn't... Here's how my prayer sounded. Oh, Lord. I actually created a prayer closet at the end of my hall, like a little closet. I took out all the cleaning supplies, put a little bench in there, and sat down because I heard something that is spiritual to have a prayer closet. So I sat in my closet and I started to pray, Lord, you have to help me figure this out. Lord, you've got to help me figure this out. Oh, Lord, you've got... And I would pray like that for hours. And I would weep before the Lord, and Lord, you just got to help me figure this out. And Lord, help me. And for 3 months, I just cried and drank milk. I couldn't eat food, just cried and drank milk. It sounds pretty sad, doesn't it? But my identity was gone. My identity went down to California. And I had nothing. And some of you guys know how I felt. Your identity is like, oh, am I smart? And it's like, okay, I need to prove to everybody how smart I am. And I can answer. It's like, some kid went on the Ellen show because he can point to any map and know what city it is. That's his identity. I've had friends who are really good at hockey. That's their identity. I've had friends who are really, really rich. That's their identity. Oh, yeah, I went to Aspen this year to have a ski in my condo, and I left my boat and my big car. It's like, that's their identity. Right? But if they lose that, then they're nobody. She was my identity, and she moved to California. So I have a thing against Michigan, and I have a thing against California. Florida's still okay. It's very good, okay? And I lost my identity. And I went through this big tailspin. It's like, oh, Lord. And so finally, at the end of this, I said, you know what, Jesus? If you don't care about me, I don't care about you. I'm out. I quit. I'm going to stop praying. I did. I stopped praying. About 3 days later, I was walking outside, and I heard something in my head. Now, some of you are going, oh, well, the dude's hearing voices. This is going to be fun. What I know now is that I heard Jesus for the first time. That's what he said. He said, I'll talk to you if you want. You know what my first response was? I was so mad. I have prayed for months that you would help me figure this out. and then I quit, and now you're here, now you've got something to say to me, now you want to talk to me, forget it. And I was done. 2 days later, I heard the same voice. It's pretty gentle, pretty inviting. I'll talk to you if you want. And I didn't know what was going on. I was not raised in a church where Jesus talked. That's not how I was raised. This is not right. I don't know how this works. But from that day on, I started to have this conversation with Jesus where he would talk to me and I would talk to him. Come to find out that this is a really big part of the Bible. 4 times in John chapter 10, he says, my sheep will hear my voice. Can I get you to repeat after me? My sheep will hear my voice. Your turn. One more time, I'll say it. My sheep will hear my voice. Your turn. 4 times in John chapter 10. And I'm like, really? I'll hear your voice? And he goes, yeah, I got good news for you. I'm not mad at you. I'm not disappointed in you. I want to encourage you. I want to tell you who you are. And I'm like, Jesus, I don't know who I am. I'm not really athletic. I'm not really smart. I'm not really anything, Jesus. And he goes, oh, I love you so much. I'm like, you can't know. That's not, really? Oh, Kim, I love being with you. I love hearing you talk. I love hearing you sing. I love it when you're kind to people. I love your sense of humor. I'm like, really, Jesus? He goes, I love it. And I started to write down what Jesus said to me. And I'm like, okay, Jesus, from what I hear, you think I'm pretty amazing. Okay, Jesus, from what I hear, you think I'm actually a pretty good friend. Okay, Jesus, from what I hear, you like spending time with me, and that it's good for people to spend time with me. And I went from the most insecure person in the room. Within a few years, I became the most secure person in the room. So now I can go into any context, any room, with anybody, and know that I belong there. Know that I have an identity that they can't touch. So if somebody makes fun of me, I actually think something's wrong with them. I used to think something was wrong with me, right? Because I remember one girl in grade 8, she made fun of how I walked. She goes, you got the weirdest walk. And I remember for the next few years trying to see how I walked. It's like I would look in the mirror, right? And I'm like, is something wrong with how I walk? And so I would try to walk different, grade 8, trying to walk all cool, right? And then I try to walk fast. Nobody look at me, no one look at me, no one look at me. And I tried like 14 different walks and none of them seemed to work. And then Jesus started talking to me. And I stopped caring about how I walked. I stopped caring about if people thought I was smart or funny or handsome or wealthy or sporty. It's like, I like doing lots of stuff. I like doing athletic stuff. I like going on the adventures. I like boating. I like doing whitewater. I like doing all that kind of stuff, but it's not my identity. Now, my identity is that I'm really loved. That's my identity. That I am a son that's been chosen by God. That's my identity. That he is for me, not against me, and that he wants to encourage me every day. That's my identity. So now, when I'm up in the morning, one of the things I love to do is go hang out with Jesus, because I'm going to get some good news. I'm not going to get, ooh, yesterday was pretty tough there, Kim. You kind of messed up there, and I'm pretty disappointed in you, and so I'm not going to talk to you for a few weeks. And I don't ever get that. What I get is encouragement, affirmation, belonging, inspiration. That's what I get when I draw near to Jesus. So you guys can go, you know what? Well, that's who you are, Kim. I'm going to choose becoming rich. Is there anyone in the room that would like to be really, really, just honest here? Anyone in the room like to be really, really rich? My wife is one of them. Just don't give me a little hand. Give me a big hand. Thank you. There's nothing wrong with that. Anyone want to be really famous? Put your hand up. Anybody want to be an influencer? We like have 4 million subscribers on YouTube or TikTok or whatever, is it? Anyone? Yeah, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be famous. But I know of some people that they have lost most of their subscribers in a month. They stood up for something, they said something, they did something, and all of a sudden most of their subscribers are gone. They're like, oh no, that was my identity. That's who I was. And unfortunately, if you look to social media, it will result in confusion, anxiety, and insecurity. You can write that in your notes. That's one of the blank spaces you've got. If you look to social media, it equals confusion, insecurity, and anxiety. Because these people don't know you. They're not supposed to be in your front row. They're just somebody in some country who happens to like what you did that day. But if you look to social media to find out who you are, I have lots of clients, and many of them are young people. I've got lots of 12 and 13 and 14-year-old clients. And I met with my client last week, and he goes, oh, I'm having the greatest day of my life. I'm like, why? And he goes, somebody with 3 million subscribers liked my video. It's my dream come true. I'm like, wow, that sounds like a blast. And so we talked about that for a while. It's like, what if he ever disliked a video of yours or trashed a video of yours? He goes, oh, I would be devastated. So we went to this question. I said, oh, okay. So it looks like your identity is wrapped up in what this guy thinks of you. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, if he likes you, you're great. If he doesn't like you, you're horrible, right? He is in charge of your life. Does it make sense? If you're into social media and really look there for the answer to this question, those people are in charge of your life. If they like you, then your life is good. If they don't like you, then your life is horrible. It's like standing in the ocean going, any wave can take me out. Oh, I'm going this way. Oh, I'm going this way. That's how it is when you let other people in charge of your identity. What I'm recommending to you is not to give them this power. Here's the other thing I want you to fill in. If you're allowing someone or something to give you value, then you're also giving them the power to take it away. If you have a rich uncle and he has said, you know what, I'm going to get you a house and a car, and say, oh, that's my identity. My rich uncle is going to get me a house and a car, and then I will be something. And then he changes his mind and says, you know what, I'm not going to give it to you, I'm going to give it to somebody else. Then your life is, especially if you were hoping for that, then your life is going to be tough. If you give him that power, if you give a group of friends that power, then you're giving them the power to take it away. So I'm really slow to give anyone this power. I have a few friends, my wife, Jesus, that's who I give that power to. But I give this power to very few friends because I don't trust them. They don't know me. And what I learned in that year at college transformed me. What if you could be secure no matter what? I'm going to ask you to be a little bit honest. How many of you struggle with feeling insecure sometimes? Just raise your hand. Yeah, I think most of you could raise your hand, but you might be feeling a little bit too insecure to raise your hand. That's okay. Some of you deal with anxiety. Some of you don't like yourselves. It's like, man, I wish I was taller or smarter or funnier, or I wish I was more athletic, or I wish I was richer, or I wish. And Jesus is like, I adore you for who you are now. And I'm like, really, Jesus? And so I have decided to put Jesus in my front row. I have decided for Jesus to decide my identity. And therefore, I am secure no matter what. No matter what. Even if you all talked to your parents tonight and said, please don't ever invite that guy back here again, I'd go, I want to hear about what happened. But I'm not looking to you guys to fulfill my identity. I already walked in knowing who I am. I am secure no matter what. I do not have to perform to have value. Wouldn't that be amazing if you didn't have to perform to have value? Wouldn't that be incredible? Where you could screw up and go, huh, yeah, that was bad. I'll try it again some other time. But I'm okay. I don't have to perform to have value. Could you imagine what that would be like? What if you could stop trying to become someone and start receiving what Jesus already thinks of you? So what we're going to do right now is that we're going to hand out some sticky notes. And I want you to take 2 sticky notes each, and there's a blank page or blank spot on number 3, and you're going to have 2 sticky notes. The first sticky notes is going to be, I want you to write down some of the lies that you believed. So take 2 sticky notes each and pass it down. On the first one, some of the lies that you have believed. No, this could be like, I mean, that one girl said, you have a funny walk, and somebody else said that you're pretty ugly, and someone else said you will fail, like that person behind Darlene. That was a lie that somebody told me. Some lies that somebody told Darlene. What's one of the lies that somebody's told you? Maybe somebody told you you're stupid. You just don't. You're just not. You don't use your head. Somebody told you, it's like, man, you're gonna fail. No one's gonna like you. That could be a lie that you have believed. Just write a few down. Anything that makes you feel small, makes you want to quit, makes you feel insecure, makes you feel afraid, those are lies that somebody told you. Write them down. Because it's going to make you feel insecure. And it's going to cause you not to know your identity. Darlene? On the second piece of paper, you may have never done this before, but I am absolutely confident that Jesus wants to speak to you. That he's not disappointed in you. He's not ashamed of you. That he has some good news for you. In the Bible it says that he is the God of eternal encouragement, which means he's always, for the rest of time, and even after that, he will be filled with encouragement. So the first side is going to be lies that you might have believed, somebody told you. The second part was, Jesus, do you have any encouragement for me? Does that make sense what I'm asking? Just right now. And what's going to happen is that you might get a thought that comes into your mind. And I want you to grab it and write it down. Jesus, do you have any encouragement for me? And when a thought comes, just grab it and write it down. We'll weigh and test it later. But I just want you to learn to start receiving some encouragement from Jesus. Jesus, what encouragement do you have for me? You can ask him, what do you love about me? Yeah. You can ask him, who do you say that I am? And just start writing that down. And if you're not quite sure how to do this hearing Jesus thing, I want you just to write down some encouragements that you've heard. Could be from your parents, could be from an uncle and aunt, a good friend, somebody at Heed. Just some encouragements, some things that people love about you. Now what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to take the encouragement note lift it up, and I want you to cover up the lies with the truth. Okay? It's not that they go away, but you don't look at them first. There's no magic wand that I can go, oh, all the lies will never, never enter your head. But you get to choose who's in your front row, and you get to choose what you think about. You get to choose what you rehearse. And you can choose to look at that encouragement sheet and go, I'm going to believe that. So in my journal with Jesus, it is filled with these top pages of encouragement. On a regular basis, Jesus, do you have any encouragement for me? And he'll just talk and talk and talk and talk, and sometimes I'll cry, and I'm like, I can't handle this. This is too good. And he goes, yeah, I'm just getting started. I have so much to say to you about what I love about you. I have so much encouragement for you. And he'll give me specific situations about how I love Darlene really well, or how I love my children really well, or how I love some homeless guy. Like we go out and hang out with the homeless people every Tuesday night, and he goes, I just love how you see them and how you care for them and how you enjoy them. He says, you laugh with those homeless guys, and it makes them feel like they are somebody. And I'm like, that's because they are somebody. I help them answer the question, who am I? This is the one of the big verses. But as to many as received him, to them he gave power to become sons of God, even and believe on his name. I'm a son who's dearly loved. You know, when when Jesus was baptized at Jordan, and he heard the Father say, this is my son whom I love, with him I'm well pleased. I hear that all the time. I've been given the right to become the son of God, a son. Jesus is the Son of God, but I'm a son. And it has produced so much confidence, so much peace, so much joy, so much love. And I'm inviting that. I mean, you guys are in a tough season. You know that it's a hard time in life to actually be confident in who you are. And some of your friends are struggling with anxiety, and some of your friends are struggling with depression, mostly because they don't know who they are. I know who I am. And they're trying to fit in. Is this good? Do you like me now? Do you like me now? Do I have enough likes? Hey, did you see my latest post? Hey, you didn't answer my text. Maybe you don't like me. Oh, I didn't get invited to this party. How come you didn't invite me to the party? I should have been. Oh, and then all of a sudden they're just anxious because they don't know who they are. And you can go, I'm going to pass all that stuff. I don't have to live like that. I can walk around knowing that I'm completely loved and adored and encouraged and valued. And if I don't get invited to that party, I'm going to invite people to my house, and we're going to have a great party. It's not a competition, but it's just, you don't have to play somebody else's game. You can go, yeah, I'll have a sleepover tonight instead with somebody that I like that actually likes me. And we'll play, and we'll laugh, and we'll encourage each other, and it'll be fantastic. Does that make sense? Okay. Darlene.
So when I met Kim, he was probably the most popular guy in the whole college.
Really? You thought that?
I saw it. And he would do something like he'd start wearing scarves inside his classes. And everybody started wearing scarves inside, all the guys. And then he saw that it was popular and he stopped it. And so they stopped it. It was wild. Kim looked like the most confident person in the world, but what was actually going on the inside, nobody knew. Nobody knew. And there's some people in your life you don't know. They may look super confident on the outside, but they're not. And so it doesn't matter who you're talking to, who you share some of these answers to, some of the questions to in the future. Sometimes there'll be people that look super popular, people who don't look popular. It's all about having the strong and powerful answers to the questions instead of the weak ones, the answers that can change so quickly. My friend, she became a friend, but when I first met her, I said, nice glasses. And she says, oh, yeah. Well, I had to get special glasses because this is
my doctor's nose. I was like, oh, so she had nose surgery. And I've met people who've had rhinoplasty. And she said, yeah, when my face went through the windshield of my car on my honeymoon, I needed a new face, and he gave me this nose. Rhonda had been named the most beautiful girl in her high school. She married her high school sweetheart, who was the athlete of the year, super smart as well. He was thrown from the car, and he destroyed his hip, so he still walks with a limp to this day. And he had a little bit of brain damage, so that he sometimes has a hard time with short-term memory. So you might be talking to him, and he might have forgotten, what did you just say? Can you imagine? But they're both followers of Jesus. And even though they went through really, really hard times, if their identity had been in their beauty or their intelligence or their athleticism, that was gone in a second. They were just in a parked car, just took their seatbelts off, and they got hit from behind in one moment. But this was years later, and she said, yeah, it was really tough. They were still married. They had a great relationship, and they had Jesus in their front row because he gave them the definition of who they were and who they could trust. So every question that we're going to talk about, you get to look back to and say, who can I trust? Jesus is inviting us to say, I alone, in contradistinction to all the others, am the road, the truth, the life. Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. I just like this way that they said it. No one comes to the Father except through me. So those are two huge questions that the whole world is asking. Who can I trust and who am I? And those are answers that God is actually offering. And we get to choose whether or not we want to listen to him. All right, ready? We're talking about serious stuff, right? So let's just take a moment to get to know each other a bit. Stand up if you have ever split your pants. You've ever split your pants.
Come on.
Yep. You're just, really? That's it? Okay. Okay, cool. I have. Okay, have a seat. No. Stand up if you can do the splits without hurting yourself. Nice. Okay, without hurting yourself. That's important. I will sit down because I would hurt myself. Okay, stand up if you were bald as a baby. You look back. I wasn't bald. You guys were bald as a baby. Nice. Okay, have a seat. Stand up if you have ever tripped on your own 2 feet. Okay, nice. It's so embarrassing, right? It's like, oh, what did you fall over? Myself. Okay, have a seat. Stand up if you have been to 3 or more different countries. 3 or more different countries outside the United States. Nice. Have a seat. Stand up if you don't like chocolate.
I knew it.
Wow. That's okay. That's okay. We still like you. Okay. Stand up if you can touch the ground standing up without bending your knees. Okay, ready? Let's prove it. 1, 2, 3. Nice. Okay. Have a seat. Stand up if you like pineapple on your pizza. Oh, yes. Some people hate it, right? They're grossed out. Okay, have a seat. Stand up if you have 8 or more letters in your first name.
What was that?
8 or more letters in your first name, meaning you have a very long first name. Nice. Okay, stand up if you have a hyphenated last name. A hyphenated last name, like Joan Smith, like with a little hyphen in between. Sometimes people have a last name with, okay. Stand up if you've ever been detained at a border crossing. They stopped you at the border crossing and checked your luggage or something, right? Or your car,
They do that all the time.
right? No, they sometimes they'll take you aside and they'll actually,
What is it in the border they always check you?
no, they ask you questions, but they don't necessarily take apart your suitcase and your stuff, right? Yeah. And it's kind of like, you're just hoping nobody slipped anything in there, right? Okay, nice, have a seat. Stand up if you've ever walked into a screen door. Stay standing if you broke it. Worst, right? Am I right? You broke it. You just walked right into a screen door. Nice, great. Okay, so we have covered 2 parts. The first question was, who can I trust? So this is about our security, so you can put the word security on top. The second one is, who am I? This is about identity, because I was thinking about what I'm talking about, sorry, identity. And this next one is, who wants me? And this is about belonging. We all long to belong. We are neurobiologically wired to want people to like us. There's nothing weird or weak or lame about wanting to have good relationships with people around us. We really, according to neuroscientists, we're designed for love. Okay? So we do best when we're in relationships where we feel like people have our back. Like they're for us. They're not like, ooh, look who showed up. Ugh, don't be in my group. Oh, don't be on my team. Okay, if you can't see the board as I'm drawing, you might want to get a better seat, because I'm going to use this for this whole one. And for those of you that have, were here last year, this one part you might recognize. This is the different kinds of love. According to Plato, he had 8 different words for love, but when I'm talking in English, I'm stuck with the one word. I love chocolate-covered anything. I love my dog, Tucker, the best dog in the world. I'm sure you have a fine dog. Mine's the best. I love my husband. I love my sons. They're all taller than me. They think I'm short. I am not short. I love whitewater rafting. I love rock climbing. I love so many things, but I'm stuck with this one word, and those are different kinds of love. Am I right? So agape is the kind of love that, this is according to the Greek philosopher Plato, not Play-Doh, like children's toy, but Plato. He would talk about love, and he would say agape is such an unusual love, it's divine. Like, who loves like this? It would be defined by being selfless, sacrificial. These are the words you can put under agape. So you have the 2 words, you have something versus agape, right? On the top of your page. So here's agape, selfish, sacrificial, unconditional, committed, giving. Does anyone remember from last year what example we used from Disney that was your example of agape? And maybe I didn't show it. Oh, sorry. Pardon? What example did we use from a Disney movie to describe agape? He was a character. He's from the movie Frozen. Olaf. So Olaf, when he took Anna, he found Anna actually. He's finding Anna, and she's freezing to death. What does he do? Okay, stand up if you have seen Frozen ever. Okay? Stay standing. I'm sorry. You're doing great. You can just put up your hand if you want. Okay. So you guys have never seen Frozen? Really? That's okay. No, that's okay. I'm just like, no, you're not. There's nothing wrong with you. There's just a lot of people have seen Frozen. Okay. How many have seen Frozen more than 5 times? More than 10 times? More than 15 times? More than 20 times? How many of, stand if you know the whole song, a song from the movie Frozen. Oh my word. Okay, we'll have a seat. So those of you that haven't seen Frozen, as you can tell, it's a pretty common one. And when I go around the world, Uganda, Nepal, Thailand, most of them have seen this movie. So when I talk about this, I'm talking about Olaf, who is a snowman, okay? So this tells you right away, this is true to life. No, it's a snowman who's alive, but he is finding his little friend in a frozen room, and what does he build to keep her alive? A fire. Do you think a fire and a snowman are compatible? No. So Anna protests, Olaf, what are you doing? You're gonna melt. And he says, there you go. Some people are worth melting for. Okay, so he is willing to sacrifice himself for his friend who is dying. Now, as the fire starts melting his face, he goes like this to hold it back, and he goes, maybe not right away, right? So it's not necessary. He's not just trying to lie down on the ground and let people walk all over him. That's not that kind of love. But it's like, I will do whatever it takes, what is best for you. So here are the words: selfless, sacrificial, unconditional, committed, and giving. And I've met people who are like, yeah, there's no such love like that. That's just Disney. When we talk about divine love, John 3:16, anyone ever heard that verse? Okay. For God so what? Loved. What kind of love is he talking about? This is the word he uses when they write the Greek. Written in the Greek, agape. For God so agaped the world. This kind of love. And he doesn't just go on and say, that's how God loved the world. He goes on to say, this is the way we're going to know who are followers of Jesus. How? By the way they give a lot of money away? By the way they do good works? By the way they agape each other. Okay? So God's saying it's possible if you have him living in you. Because we run out of love pretty fast. Right? When people irritate us, frustrate us, we're kind of done. But he never runs out. So this is one kind of love. On the other end of the spectrum, there's eros. Favorite food, anybody? Somebody who was not here last year. Who was not here last year? You were here last year? Okay, so what's your favorite food? You don't have I need somebody with a favorite food who wasn't here last year. Yes. Mac and cheese. So you can put down your favorite food, but if you don't have one, just put food. I don't know. Mac and cheese. Put down your favorite. And you tell me, what's your name? Isla? I'm Darlene. Isla, how do you treat mac and cheese? You said you love it. Can you say it louder? You won't let your sisters eat it. What do you do to it? You eat it, but you said you loved it. Like do you stab it or do you spoon it? Do you stab it? Whoa. And you put it in your mouth, you chew it, you swallow it, you digest it, you put it in the stomach with all these toxins, and then you use it, it goes through your body, and then if everything's working well in your system the next day, you eliminate what you didn't want. Am I right? Oh my goodness, Isla! I'm not saying you're a selfish person, but the way you love mac and cheese is selfish. Okay? Now you cannot judge Isla, because if you have a favorite food, you do the same thing to it. And some of you, if it's steak, you use knives and you cut it. Right? Seriously. Okay, so I'm just giving you a hard time. Of course you're going to treat mac and cheese like that. It's selfish. This love is using. This love is conditional. It's the opposite of unconditional. It's conditional, because if I brought Isla some mac and cheese, and some of it dropped in dog poo, Isla would probably say, I won't eat that, I want the non-dog poo. Am I right? Phew, so she has standards, that's important. So it's conditional. She doesn't just love mac and cheese, it has to be without dog poo on it. So, also, I'm going to suggest her love is temporary. Because if I brought you mac and cheese this week, and next week somebody else brought you mac and cheese, you wouldn't go, no, I'm committed to last week's mac and cheese, would you? You would just move on. You'd be like a mac and cheese player, wouldn't you? You just like, oh, I like this mac and cheese. Oh, I'll have this mac and cheese, right? So it's temporary, and this is a taking kind of love. Now that's completely understandable because mac and cheese is a thing. Bless you. Does anyone think it's possible to be treated like mac and cheese? Is it possible to have a friend who uses you? It's conditional, it's temporary, it's taking, it's selfish. It's possible, right? Is it possible to have that in a friend? Yes, is it possible to have it in a family member? If you don't do what I want, I liked your brother better anyway. This kind of love is probably the one that if you go out into the neighborhoods and you would ask them, what have you experienced more of, eros or agape? What do you think people would say? Eros. And if you ask those same people what kind of love would you like to experience more of, what do you think they would say? Agape. Here's the wild thing. God's designed our brains so that if we practice something over and over and over again, we become used to it. It becomes normal. We do something over and over and over, it just becomes normal. We've practiced things over and over and over, and it just seems like the way it is. And so for some people, this is all they've ever known, and this is just Disney, it's weird, it doesn't even exist. And if they see it, they go, yeah, what's your angle? I don't believe it. When we ask the question, who wants me, or about belonging, this is about feeling truly belonged. This is about conditional. A lot of times, cool groups, have you guys ever seen a cool group, whether it's in a school or a sports team or any kind of, a cool group is often made about who can we exclude rather than who can we include. Can we envelop people? Can we make them feel great? And I don't mean that we're willing to die for each other all the time, but like we're actually considering other people. But a lot of times people just get used to this. And we can train our brains so that this is the way we live, or we can say, I want this, like Walter did. Walter, my dad, experienced this from his dad, right? And he started training his brain this way. And then he decided, watching his mom, this is what I want. So he started practicing, which is training your brain, started practicing this. Was it easy? No. Is it possible? How many of you have ever had to break a habit? Easy?
No.
Right? Okay, if I asked you all to, how many of you are right-handed? If I asked you now to draw with your left hand, what would it look like?
I can't draw either way.
Pretty bad, right? Yeah, me too. Right? Or you're writing, whatever. But over a year, if something happened to your hand, you'd have to put in a cast for a year. Could you eventually learn how? Yes. Because our brain is powerful and it can relearn things. The prayer of Jesus, right underneath, right here, prayer of Jesus is John 13, 34 and 35. That's what he wants for us. He wants us to know what it's like to feel a belonging that is like the people that are the family of God. Everywhere you go, you belong. Because see, the thing is, if you trust God, then you get to funnel all these questions through him and ask him, who am I? I get to ask him, and he says, you're loved. There was one year I kept asking Jesus, what do you want to tell me? And he kept saying, I love you. And I was like, Jesus, you keep saying the same thing. And he was like, you keep forgetting. I was like, good point. Because the world around me is always telling me I'm not good enough. I need to change. I need to get different clothes, or I need to change my haircut, or I need to get taller or shorter or faster or slower. I don't know. The world around us tells us we're not okay. Jesus tells us, I love you. Now, he doesn't leave us the way we are. He invites us to become more like him. So agape is, if you want to choose that, that is an option. But if you want to have that kind of love in your life, you get to invite the one who is love into your life. And that one who is love, he actually changes everything around you. All right. Stand up if you've ever apologized to something that is not alive, an inanimate object. You bumped into a mannequin and said sorry, or a door, or yes, isn't that embarrassing? Oh, it's the worst. Okay, have a seat. Stand up if you've ever opened the refrigerator door and totally forgotten what you're looking for. Right? It's like, Okay, have a seat. Stand up if you've ever bitten into something rotten and spat it out. Like, ugh. Okay, nice. One time I bit into, okay, stand up if you've ever bitten into something and it was alive. There was something alive in it. Right? Me too. It's terrible. What was yours? A worm. Me too. Half a worm in a blackberry. Mine was in a burger in the Dominican. It was like, whoa. I know. Okay. Stand up if you, see, I feel closer to you already because we're sharing, what we know about each other. Stand up if you've ever bought something at a store only to turn around and return it. Like, I changed my mind. Okay. Yes, me too. Okay, have a seat, stand up. If you hate returning stuff, you would never return stuff, stores would love you and go, okay, yeah, okay, sweet. See, have a seat, stand up. If you've ever stepped in dog poo and you walked into the house or the car without realizing it and went, wait a second, I stink. What is going on? It's the worst, okay? Have a seat, stand up. If you've ever gotten gum stuck in your hair, stay standing if you had to get it cut out. Right? Okay, nice, have a seat. Okay, I'm going to share a little section with you at the bottom part of this, a bottom part of this belonging, which is really powerful because, and I usually just share it with high school students, but this year I'm going to share it with you guys. There's a couple things going on here. What we want to understand is the desire to belong is so huge in all of us that sometimes people get sucked in to actually giving away themselves in a desire to be loved because they're so hungry to belong. They're so hungry for love. And so they think romantic love is going to be the way that they're going to find that sense of who wants me, right? So we're going to talk about sex for just a little bit. You're like, what? How did this happen? Shut the doors, lock them. I'm kidding. No, so we're going to just talk about it just for a little bit, okay? And this is actually the thing I talk about most when I go to schools and universities. But I'm going to talk about the science behind it. This is a quote from Amanda, and she said, in a typical high school, and I know you're not in high school yet, but the typical high school, the more detached you are from your sexuality, the cooler you are. What she means is treating it like it's no big deal. It's whatever. Like, oh, it's just sex, right? And what we see in the media, and when I say media, I'm talking about all the way from movies to magazines to all that, is that sex is either treated like no big deal, like everybody's having it, what's your problem, why are we even talking about this, it's just, recreation, but it's also talked about like it's the most important thing and something's wrong with you if you're not having it. I mean, if you don't have sex, you're going to blow up one of these days and we're going to be walking along and you're going to spontaneously combust. We're going to have to put up a tombstone, didn't get any. Like, this is serious, right? Like, you got to go out there, right? There's this feeling that something's wrong with you. Because there's enough movies out there, and maybe you haven't seen them, but there's enough movies out there that will have somebody who says, yeah, I've not had sex. And they're like, what? We can find somebody. We could pay somebody. Like, this is awful. They treat it like it's a disease, right? Now, it's important to realize that when the media is giving us advice, what does the media want from you and me? Bottom line? Bottom line? Money. Like, do they think about, gee, what's the best way to teach people how to have great relationships? Really? Do you think they're doing that? No. It's like, how can they make money? And money is connected to images about sex. The porn industry, the pornography industry, is multi-billion dollars. Multi-billion dollars. And how do they treat people? Like things, right? Pornography is about treating people like things, just parts. You don't think of them like real people, right? You just think of them as, parts that are just joining in different ways. And it's like, and the novelty is there. Do you know the average age of first exposure to pornography in Canada? You wouldn't, right? Because you're not Canadian. 8.
8?
It's pretty close to the US. The 8 is, there are different studies in the US, it's between 8 and 10. Average age. And if you haven't seen pornography, great. Pornography would be sexually explicit images, right? Created for adults, but the biggest group of people watching pornography are between ages 11 and 17, okay? And so you don't have to be afraid of pornography, but when you see it, you want to know, hey, what am I supposed to do with this? You get to, in that moment, train your brain. And in that moment, when you see pornography, you get to go, you know what? That's not cool. I want something else. Why is pornography not cool? Because it trains your brain for eros. It trains your brain to see people as things to be used, not people to be loved. And so it literally turns you into a person who is a using, selfish, taking person, so that when that person grows up and they say, oh, yeah, I've had a lot of sex education through pornography, their marriages fall apart. The studies on this is like 62% of divorce lawyers will say, 62% of marriages will break up because at least one of those people, like husband or wife, will have an obsessive interest in pornography. That's huge, guys. It's breaking up relationships, right? And it's messing with people's sense of feeling important, because they start comparing themselves to images that aren't even real or healthy. So if you have been exposed to pornography, I just want to throw this on the side. Please write this down, this one thing I'm going to give you. For the friends that you care about, even if you're like, I don't struggle with pornography, it's called Fight the New Drug. It's not religious, it's not political, but it's created 12 years ago by students for students in college, because pornography was wrecking their relationships. So put somewhere on that page, Fight the New Drug. And if you or a friend, parent, whatever, really struggles with pornography, you can point them to this app called Fortify. Fortify. It's free for kids under the age of 18. You're not kids, sorry. Free for people under the age of 18. Over the 18, it actually, they charge them so that under 18 can get it for free. So this Fight the New Drug has amazing short little clips. It's the most interesting. I wish all of you would go home and say, Mom and Dad, can we go on Fight the New Drug website? Because it just has these great little short 2-minute videos on how it changes your brain, how it changes your relationships, how it changes the world. And then there's half-an-hour documentaries, not meant to scare you, meant to inform you so you can fight for love. There's actually t-shirts that I've seen all over the world, people wearing, called Fight for Love. And if you see somebody wear Fight for Love, that means they have joined, they call it the fight, against pornography taking over relationships, okay? So just that's kind of on the side, but it's understanding the power of our brain, and the understanding too that even though a person go, oh, my brain's messed up, here's the good news. We can change our brain. Our brain is being changed all the time anyways. We get just to decide if it's become a habit that's hard to break. Are habits hard to break sometimes? Yes. Are they worth it? You get to decide. Okay? So that's my resource for you. And you will, like, even if there's nothing else you take away from this, hide this in your nightstand, and when a friend or somebody you care about, you notice, is struggling with pornography, you get to go, wait, I remember. If you can't remember to contact us, radicalrelationships.love, you can just go straight Fight the New Drug. Okay? Okay. So that's on pornography. Let's just talk about There we go. So, did you all notice that you have a little triangle there? Okay, so here's the sides to a triangle. Physical, in a romantic relationship, there's a physical part to a relationship, and there's an emotional part to a relationship. Okay? And then there's something called meet and like. Now, not everyone experiences infatuation or crushes. How many of you have been around somebody who is crushing on another person? Is it so irritating or what? Right? They're talking, oh, the way he eats that apple, it's just so cute. And you're like, cute? That's like a monkey on a cupcake. That's gross. Or, oh, the way she giggles. That is not a giggle, dude. That is a cackle. Like, what are you, deaf? Right? But the thing is, you don't understand infatuation. When somebody is infatuated, it's a documented brain state. When somebody sees somebody, it can happen within a fifth of a second. What happened there? Within a fifth of a second, they get an intoxicating chemical cascading through their brain, and suddenly they're like, oh, right? Oh. Not everyone experiences it. Some of the best marriages I've seen have started in friendships and turned into affection and then turned into romance. But there's a lot of people, Kim will describe, when he first saw me, he was like, oh, right? And it was wow, right? He was just, yeah. Thanking Jesus. Is that Twitter paid it? That's from Bambi. Yeah, okay, so 12 parts of the brain just gets overwhelmed with this. How long can infatuation last, do you think? A year. Good guess. Where else? 6 to 8 months. Okay? 6 to 8 months is how long it can last. But it might only last a couple minutes. Like, somebody might walk into this room and you're like, wow, right? Whoo! Sweaty hands, swimmy ears, and then they sit down next to you and they're like, oh, and then they turn and talk to you and their breath is horrible and they say something stupid or rude, something really rude, and you're like, ew. So infatuation might only last a couple of minutes, but it could last 6 to 8 months. But if a person makes a big decision about life within those first 6 to 8 months, like if they're going to have sex with them or be married to them, okay? Because the greatest emotional commitment can be marriage, the greatest physical connection can be sex. If they make that decision within the first 6 to 8 months, they're not even thinking with a full brain because they're infatuated. Why? Here's what happens in a brain. A lot of things happen, but for a woman, she gets an increase in instinct, attention, and memory circuits. Guys, you get a higher level of visual processing, but for both men and women, reduced activity in critical thinking and worry centers. So you might go, like they have a real temper. Have you not noticed? And they're like, oh, you just don't understand. You're jealous. They've changed. But after 6 to 8 months, they might go, oh, you know, I think yeah, something's not right. But if they've made a big decision, like they've married them within those 6 to 8 months, or they've had sex, they've actually changed some significant things. Okay? And the media says it's no big deal. Sex is no big deal, right? Here's what changes in the brain when a person decides to have sex. They get a superglue hormone called oxytocin. It's called the love, cuddle, forget hormone. This is a game changer. When I teach this in nursing classes, they're like, what? We know about oxytocin when a woman has a baby, because women get oxytocin when they have a baby, right? Because they fall in love with this, what is that? Yoda with slime? Like what? They're like, oh, he's so beautiful. It's like, no, that's not, that's ew. But they go, I remember thinking my boys were gorgeous. Like, wow. And then a couple of years later, I looked at pictures and went, one of them, seriously, looks like he got beat up. How did I not see that? Because my brain flooded with oxytocin and I was like, oh, I was in love. I was willing to go through sleepless nights, 4 different colors of poop in 1 month. Come on, have you guys not seen infant poop? It's like little mustard, and it's gross, right? How many of you have ever seen infants poop? Okay, anyways, so it's wild, and they're willing to go through crying and all that because they're bonded. It's called a superglue hormone. And they've forgotten all the pain. They're saying, honey, let's have another baby. Like an hour ago, you said never touch me again. What happened? Oxytocin floods through her body when she has a baby. How many of you ever had a bad experience with superglue? Anyone? Yes. I wish I could hear all your stories because there's a lot. You guys probably percentage-wise have the highest negative experiences with superglue I've ever seen. So this is fascinating. But superglue, when you bond to something you don't want to be bonded to, is not a pleasant experience. Am I right? Oxytocin is what 2 people get when they have sex. The difficulty is, like I said, neuromodulator, meaning they'll forget something that might have been something you should remember. But it's also called a values neutral hormone, meaning it doesn't tell you if the person you're bonding to is somebody that you want to be bonded to. So in the media, how long does it take before somebody goes from meet and like to sex maybe in a movie?
5 days.
5 days, 2 days, 1 day, first date, right? It's no big deal. It's so fast. Well, how well do they know that person?
Not that well.
Not that well. But suddenly, when they're bonded to them, they're willing to overlook things. How many of you have seen a relationship, don't put your hands up, then you go, what are they even doing together? They treat each other like garbage. Why are they people together that treat each other like garbage, whether it's in a friendship or a romantic relationship? It might be because they've trained their brain for eros and they go, well, this is just the way it is. People just use people. Or they may still be in the infatuation stage, and or they may have had sex. Because as you move down that physical line of progression, you get more and more oxytocin. Okay? And sex is the greatest amount of oxytocin 2 people can get. Any kind of sex. Right? So that's so important. Now, if a person is being forced or sexually abused, they will not get oxytocin. And the faster that person can get to counseling, the better chance they have of being able to say, that was part of my past, but it's not going to define my future. But it is not something they have to worry about in terms of oxytocin. But if 2 people were willing, that oxytocin is there and they're just like, this is it. The brain says, this is it. It's like a promise the body makes, even if words are not there. And you get oxytocin as you head down the emotional line of progression. Hey, I like you. Oh, that feels good. That feels great. You know, here's the thing. But again, the greatest amount is at sex. The one thing I want you to just notice is that if a guy gets this much oxytocin when he's having sex, how much does a woman get? Any guesses? Exactly the same amount. Incorrect, but guess. I love guesses. 10 to 100 times more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This isn't even 10 times more. Immediately. Does that mean a guy can't be as bonded as a girl? No. It just means it takes him more time. What? What? That explains why even along the emotional line of progression, girls get more bonding quicker. Is it boys or girls that do this in elementary school?
Oh, that's us.
That's us, I know. Who, do boys tend to do that more than girls? Girls tend to. My sons came home one time, Mom, what's with girls? I'm like, okay, what? What's with girls? See, I was the only girl in the house, not really a girl, technically, I was just a mom, but they would ask me to explain girls. Now girls, let's be honest, can you explain us? No. We're a mystery and we like it. But anyways, they said, am I right? Am I wrong? Okay, that's right. So they're like, Mom, we went to the restaurant for the birthday party. They were in high school. And they said, one girl stood up and said, I need to go to the restroom. And all the other girls went, oh, we'll go with you. And like a herd, they go to the bathroom. What is going on? I said, honey, they get oxytocin. They're getting oxytocin because they're bonding when they talk. Right? They feel relaxation, fearlessness, trust, and contentment. It feels great to share your heart. And then Kim said in on one of the workshops, he went, wait, what? Girls talk in the bathroom? I'm like, yeah, we do. Right? Don't guys talk in the bathroom? Guys like,
No.
I'm like, what? Okay, because girls, we get, and so if a girl is sharing a heart with a guy, she will feel like, oh, it's really special. And the guy's like, I was just listening. I don't know what happened. Like, why does she think we're, exclusive? What's going on? And that doesn't not meant to embarrass us girls. It's just understanding our hearts. And so if two people decide to have sex, because the media says it's no big deal, but it's the biggest deal, it's really important, the girl will feel more bonded than the guy. It doesn't mean the guy's not affected. It does mean, he doesn't know that if they've had sex, that he has a chemical imprint in his brain of that girl for the rest of his life. Nobody told him. Nobody told him he has a degree of bonding that he just can't detect. But the girl will usually, almost all the time, suddenly notice, wait a second, I wasn't even interested in him. We were just having sex, and now this is what a neuroscientist said to a group of college girls. Ladies, on your first date with him, he's passable. Second date, he's okay. Third date, well, I guess we should have sex because everyone's saying we should. And then the next day, you are literally looking for him in the halls. Right? There's a sense of, oh, we're attached, we're connected. But nobody's talking about this oxytocin stuff. Wherever I go, every once in a while, I'll meet somebody who goes, yeah, I studied that in brain science. But it's like, this is really a big deal. It changes things. People are sometimes making dumb decisions about somebody, getting stuck together with somebody that isn't even good for them or hurts them, that they can't trust or respect. What's the most important part of the triangle? If we were going to talk about this triangle, is the physical part or the emotional? Which takes more work? Emotional or physical? Emotional. Getting to know somebody, finding out, if they're cruel, if they're kind, if they know how to forgive, if they're going to spend all your money, if they're going to make you work and they won't do a thing, if they're going to try to isolate you from their family, if they're going to, cheat on you. Those are things you kind of want to know. You're not going to find them out quickly. So I remember having one lady come up to me and she's like, where were you 30 years ago? Like, because I just did a tiny presentation. I explained how a 13-year-old girl came to our pregnancy care center. And she came in and said, I need a test. I need a test, and her boyfriend was there, and the counselor said, okay, we'll just go into this other room, ask you a couple questions. Because you're under the age of consent, which in Canada is 16, because you're under that age, we need to know the age of your boyfriend. And the girl goes, it's not that important. Like, he's amazing. We've talked about it. We're going to get married. And if we don't get married, if we don't see that the test says we're pregnant, we'll wait for later to get married. But we'll get married if I'm pregnant now, you know. And the counselor said, I'm sure he's great. I just need to know his age. Is that really important? Yeah. Huh. Okay, I don't know how old he is, but he's in the other room. I'll go ask him. So she thought they were ready to get married. Right? But she didn't know how old he was. So she thought they were over here on this line. Where do you think they actually were on the line? Go ahead. I want you to hum until you want me to stop. Okay? Go ahead. You guys! It can't be. You gotta stop soon. Guys. Okay, I'm gonna draw a line. Okay, so this is what their relationship triangle looked like. You don't have to be an engineer to see, is this a stable triangle?
No.
No. And the studies will show that the quicker a person engages in sexual activity, the less chance that relationship has
How old was
to last. You know, I can't tell you that because I don't actually know. I was told the story. I was given permission to tell the story. But because we're a pregnancy care center, does anyone know what a pregnancy care center is? People who can go for emergency or surprise pregnancies. Because it was a pregnancy care center, it's confidential. So unless they tell you they give you permission to share it, I can't share it. I know, people ask me that all the time. They're all like, I bet I know. It's like, anyways. But this is what her triangle looked like. It's like the weight of the physical ended up crashing in on the emotional. And the relationship did not last. In fact, in high school, on average, after you had sex to a relationship, how long does a relationship last? Anyone know? 21 days on average. Yes, you had a question. No. I'm not. I'm sorry, it's confidential. But it does, I mean, it is concerning if somebody doesn't know, right? And they think, but we're ready to get married.
Did you say the girl was 13?
Yes, she was 13. And the thing was, sometimes, every once in a while, one time in a class, somebody called out, well, she was dumb. She wasn't dumb, she'd had sex. And it changed her brain. She was bonded, boom, boom, like just, you know, here's my crazy glue that I carry around. I don't even open it anymore. Last time I opened crazy glue, messed up my brand new kitchen counter. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to mess with this stuff. Am I right? How many of you remember the Gorilla Glue Girl? Anyone heard of the Gorilla Glue Girl? Who wants to explain what happened to the Gorilla Glue Girl? Yes, go ahead, nice and loud.
So she thought spray on Gorilla Glue was hairspray, and she sprayed it all over her hair.
She sprayed on Gorilla Glue hairspray all over her, and then what happened?
And she could not get it off, so she had to like go through a bunch of like surgical things to get it off.
And to get it off, her hair, she starts missing pieces of skin. She's got little bits of hair. Go like this to the pew, the wood part of the pew. That's what her head sounded like on Facebook when she's good, because she'd use, right? She couldn't get it off. And she's like, she tried using water. What happens when you add water to it? It actually starts pulling, like it starts condensing or constricting, and she couldn't sleep, she had headache. You can't shave a head when it's this close to you. Go look it up, Gorilla Glue Girl. Anyways, the main lesson of that story, don't mess with super glue. And in the same way, I share that with people. So this lady comes back to me, she goes, after I've just shared this, she goes, where were you 30 years ago? I mean, what happened 30 years ago? 30 years ago, I met a guy, and I believed that sex was the most important part of a relationship. You have to find out if you're sexually compatible. That's what my friend said. So we raced down that line of physical. Had sex early on, found out after we married, he's an addict. Broke up. Second marriage, boom, headed straight down. He found out after we married, he's an abuser. Third marriage, raced down. What did I find out after we're married? He's a cheater. She's like, you could have saved me 3 marriages if you'd have just told me to slow down and work on this. Because according to studies, the most successful relationships are those that wait for sex till marriage. Check it out. Strongest possible triangle. You get to decide. You get to decide. But the thing is, as brothers and sisters in the Lord, if you are part of the body of Christ, you get to remember that the person that you date someday, and someday, like if you marry, it'll be somebody that you've dated, right? Unless it's arranged marriages, which is cool. I'm good, cool. The person, someday if you marry somebody, that person is going to be, I can't even remember what I was talking about. Okay, so, what did I say? I don't even remember. Okay, what side can be added quickly? Physical or emotional? Emotional. So can emotional be added quickly? No. Physical can be added really quickly. So just taking it super, super slow. And if you're part of the body of Christ, realizing that that person that you're dating is actually someone who could be the child of the father or mother of your child, right? So then you start looking at them differently, right? Because what kind of characteristics do you want for a father or mother of your child? Not just good looking, right? You want somebody great. And what kind of great? So next to the superglue hormone right there is oxytocin. Okay? Does anyone need the spelling for that?
Yes.
Oxytocin. It's called the love, cuddle, forget hormone. So right there, oxytocin. And then right next to the triangle, we have something called a wish list. Why do I encourage people to make a wish list? Because people will say to me, Darlene, if I get infatuated, like this meat-and-like face, and you're saying that I'm not going to be thinking clearly, how am I going to decide if this person is who I think they are or not? How? And I tell them, make a contract with yourself before you start dating. So, even if some of you are dating already, I'm going to say, before you start dating, get out a piece of paper, and right now you can just get it started a little bit, and create a wish list. So here's some traits that I put up. You can add things. You can say red hair with freckles. You can go, I want to add that. Or you can say, as somebody who's really good at Minecraft, you could add that. But what kind of person do you imagine sharing the rest of your life with?
A nice person.
Well, and what does nice look like, right? Break it down. Add those things that are important to you. And then circle the ones that are essential. It might not be essential to marry somebody with red hair and freckles. You might not go, oh, that's a deal breaker, right? That might not be a deal breaker. Which ones are deal breakers? You're the only person that can decide that. And then when you start dating somebody, and if you get infatuated and go, wow, they're perfect, they're awesome, there's nothing wrong with them. When you start seeing that, you can go, wait a second, I made a contract with myself. Darlene told me to make a wish list. I pull out my wish list, and I go, I said the most important thing was, I had 5 of them, right? And you might have 5. You might go, trustworthy. How am I going to test whether they're trustworthy or not? Who am I going to talk to? I want to listen. Do they gossip about their friends? And you go, oh, then they might gossip about me, right? So you get to discover who they really are. But you have to know what you're looking for. Again, you might have a whole bunch of these, but which ones are essential? And if you are a follower of Jesus, you notice follows Jesus is up in the corner? If you are a follower of Jesus, whatever you do, do not marry a Christian. Do not marry a Christian. Anyone can call themselves a Christian. Oh yeah, I read my Bible. Oh yeah, I've been to church. Oh yeah, my family's a Christian. So what? Anyone can say they're a Christian. You want somebody who's actually following Jesus. Somebody who's listening to Jesus, obeying him. If Jesus says, you know what, take your allowance and give it to a family that's in need, that you go, oh, I don't want to, but I'm going to do it, right? Somebody who's forgiving, who has the fruit of the Spirit, right? Who's loving, who's joyful, who's patient, who's kind. Not just somebody who says, yeah, I'm a Christian. Because people can pretend to be anything. Am I wrong? Okay. So you get to decide. Circle the non-negotiables. Okay? And then if you are a follower of Jesus, start praying for them. One guy approached me. He was 24 years old. He said, Darlene, when I was 14, you told me to make a wish list. I did it. And then he said, I just recently asked my girlfriend to marry me. I held out my wish list and I said, you are everything on this list. I've been waiting for you for 10 years. And she went, oh. And then she went, oh. He goes, what? The date. He goes, what? That date. He goes, well, that's the date I made the wish list and I started praying for you. Well, that's the date I decided to follow Jesus. You don't know where your future partner is. You don't know who they're listening to. You don't know who they have in their front row, right? You don't know if they're believing lies about themselves, so they're treating themselves as worth less than they actually are. And they're treating themselves cheaply. You pray for them. And then become the kind of person you're looking for is looking for. If you're looking for a trustworthy person, wouldn't it be fair to kind of start practicing being trustworthy? Just saying. If you're looking for somebody who's forgiving, would it be smart to start forgiving? I love this quote by Jackie Bruton. I'm convinced that the only reason a person would make a decision that only gives them temporary pleasure, like having sex outside of marriage, but yet that very same decision can keep them from becoming all that they can be, is because you can't know who you are. Because if you really know who you were, if you knew the purpose you have in life, if you really understood the possibilities, there's absolutely no way you would let anything, especially something that only gives temporary pleasure with risks for lifelong pain, get in the way. So if there's one thing I could give you, is a sense of how valuable you are, how precious, how incredible you are. Because if you understood, 11 years ago, I took this job. And my son convinced me of it. He was 14 at the time. He said, Mom, you have to go into schools. You have to tell girls how beautiful they are. Because if they only understood how beautiful they were, they wouldn't let guys treat them like jerks. Right. He convinced me. He talked me into it. He taught me how to use the iPad, how to treat this like the remote, blah, blah, blah. He was amazing. But he saw it. He saw that if people don't know how valuable they are, guys, girls, if you don't know how valuable you are, you let people treat you poorly. You are unique, valuable, incredible. So who do you belong to? You belong to the family of God. That's who you belong to. Therefore, you're no longer strangers and foreigners, because sometimes we feel like that. We feel weird. Am I right? Sometimes we feel really weird. It's like nobody's like me. That's right. If you feel different than everybody else, great, because something would be wrong with you if you felt like everybody else. There's no one like you. There's no one like you. You got one-of-a-kind thumbprints. If you commit a crime, they can find you if your fingerprints are on wear gloves. Thanks. Great suggestion, Sam. Right? Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's no one like you, which follows right into our next question, why am I here? We're going to kind of motor through the next two, but before we do that, anyone think it's time for a little stand-up if?
Yeah!
Stand up if you've ever given yourself a talking to. You're like, come on, you can do this, or why'd you do that, or okay? Yes. The rest of you are looking at you like, why would you talk to yourself? I don't get that. I get that. Okay, nice. Have a seat. Stand up if you have ever faked loving a gift that you really didn't. Okay? Now I want to see your fake, like loving the gift face. Let's see your fake face of loving the gift. Let's see your fake face. Oh, you guys. Okay, nice. Have a seat. Stand up if you actually like spiders. You actually like spiders. Actually. Nice. Have a seat. Stand up if you've ever watched a sunrise on purpose. Not accident. You got up to watch it. Oh my word. Look at you. We are sluggards. We don't do that. In the Bahamas. Okay. Have a seat. Stand up if you mix up left and right sometimes. You mix up your left and your right sometimes. Okay, nice. Have a seat. Stand up if you've ever found a Christmas present or a birthday present before you were supposed to. Okay? Stay standing if you left it there. Stay standing if you left it there. You found it and you left it there. And stay standing if you pretended to be surprised when you got it. Let's see your surprised face.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay. Stand up if you've ever opened your mouth only to have an insect fly into it. Okay, have a seat. It's protein, guys. It's protein. Stand up if you've ever used an outhouse. You ever used an outhouse?
Oh, you guys are gonna love it.
Okay, have a seat. Stand up if you give horrible directions. Somebody goes, how do you get there? And you're like, well, you go and you just... Okay, have a seat. Stand up if certain foods give you hiccups. Certain foods give you hiccups. Spicy gives me hiccups. Okay, have a seat. And stand up. Stand up. This happened to me last week. It was so embarrassing. If you just inhaled and you started choking, like you just what's wrong with that? Oh. Okay, sorry. Okay. Sorry, I guess some of you couldn't hear that. If ever you can't hear me, just say, Darlene, move your mic. So I apologize for that. Okay, next two questions. Let's roll these off. Okay. Oh wait, did you fill in? Become the person you're looking for is looking for. Did you get that at the very bottom before we turn page? Become the person you're looking for is looking for. Right? I'll show you that slide. So that was by Andy Stanley. I thought that was just brilliant. Right? And some of you are going, Darlene, I'm in grade 6. I'm not thinking about getting married. That's cool. I'm not suggesting you should be thinking about getting married. I'm suggesting that you can actually train yourself to be the kind of person that people want to hang around with. You can train yourself to actually be a friend, be somebody that people want to have in their front row, right? And in doing so, you will attract the kind of people that you want to hang around with. All right. All right, why am I here? Okay, up on top, above why am I here is purpose. All of these ones that we fill in, identity, security, belonging, and purpose, are desires that God has put into each one of us. There's nothing weak or lame about them. He gave us those desires to be met by Him. And again, if you put Him in your front row, if you do, then you can ask Him about these things and trust His answers. Like you can ask Him, why am I here? Like, why am I here on earth? My youngest, Jordan, who I quoted to you before, he'd ask that often. He'd be like, I remember as early as 4 years old, he'd come in, had a bad day with some of his friends, right? You remember 4. 4 was rough, right? So he comes in after a hard day, throws himself, Mom, why are we here? Why can't we just go to heaven? Why? Why can't we? I'm like, honey, we're here for a purpose. We're here because there's so many people who don't know about Jesus. And they're not ready to go to heaven. But ultimately, I believe we're here as a gift.
$20.
Oh yeah, wait, I'll just take that off. That's to remind me of something. Okay. Yeah, no, you're not worth $20. That's not what I meant. Oh my goodness. You guys are worst. All right, does anyone have $20 on them though?
I'll take it.
20? Okay, I'll take it. No?
I'll take your credit card.
Do you trust me? Do you trust me to give it back to you? Does anyone want to trust me with $20? 20? Okay, 20. Thank you. Okay, so I'll say this, and well, maybe. I'm just kidding. Okay, I'm going to put it here, and then we'll just talk to you about this for a wee bit, and then I'll explain the $20. I believe, what do you see is written on the gift on your page?
God to God.
To God and to the world. So according to Scripture, God made you as a gift to himself first, because he wanted you. He wanted you to know him. He wanted to work with you. He wanted to play with you. He wanted you to discover the things that he's made for you. Not just today, but like eternity. Like for billions and billions and billions of years. And anyone who has an idea of heaven as just being sitting back and on clouds and playing harps, they don't know. They have not read the Bible, or understood that part of the Bible. They have not heard testimonies of people who actually died, gone to heaven, and come back. I went to a funeral, actually, a few years ago with Kim, and there was a lady who had just died in her sleep. She was a mom. She was 50. She wasn't that old. She died. She'd fallen asleep and just didn't wake up. And at the funeral, her daughters got up and talked about their mom. And they were so sad. They're like, we really miss our mom. We were so glad she was here for our weddings, but she hasn't been around for our babies. And so she doesn't get to be a grandmother. We miss her so much, but we can't get too upset because she really wanted to go to heaven because she's already been there once. And I went, wait, what? Later on in the ceremony, sir, is it a ceremony? Do you call it a funeral service? A person stood up and shared her story. When she was 10, she drowned. And she was dead. She was considered dead for half an hour. They brought her back to life, and she was so mad. She was mad for 4 years. She was like, why did you bring me back? I was in the most amazing place in the world, and you would have come because in eternity, time is no big deal. It'd be like, your mom's going to pick you up. Yeah, your mom's going to pick you up, at your friend's house, and she comes early, and you're like, what? Wait, right? It's just, could you have not waited another hour, right? And this is her attitude. It's like, you guys were coming. Why did you bring me back? They would go to these amazing gardens. They were describing taking her when she was like 12 years old to this gorgeous garden, right? And it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen on earth. And she's looking around going, it's all covered in gray. Ew, so dirty here. Because she'd been to heaven. She saw how incredible it was. She's like, everyone's so sad here and so mad here and so frustrated. People are not, everywhere I went, people were like, hey, you're here. You know how good that feels? When people go, hey, I saved a seat for you. It feels doesn't it feel great? Everywhere she goes, you brought me back here. But after 4 years of being mad about coming back to earth, she said, Jesus, you've made me. The purpose in my life is to serve you, so I want to give my life to you, and I want to tell people you do not want to miss out on heaven. So for the next, how old was she? So she was 10. For the next 40 years, that was her mission in life. She kept telling people about what she experienced, like, you got to go. Like, it's incredible. Like, your body feels weightless. You don't have to worry. Like, if you're rock climbing, you don't have to worry about getting hurt, falling. It's awesome. Like, the things you can do and the things you can create and the people you're around, it's not boring. It's the opposite. Your best day on earth ever is your worst day in heaven kind of thing, right? Doesn't even compare. So God has given us a gift to himself. We are created by him. I love this scripture. We are created by him. We're his masterpiece. We're his handiwork to do good things in the world. That everywhere we go, we get to leave the place a little better. Do you know what a difference your smile can make to somebody's day? Your encouragement. I remember hearing a story just recently about a guy who came back to his friend from high school. And he said, I've never told you this before, but several years ago when we were in high school, I thought about ending my life. And I came to school that day, and you just said, I'm so glad you're on my team. And you just treated me really well that day. And he goes, and I changed my mind. You made that difference. You don't know what people are going through. Kim looked like the most secure guy in the whole school. He would roll down the hill in his suit, and in snow and everything. And people were like, oh, he's amazing. Look how confident he is. Not knowing that inside he was dying. Like he was like, I didn't know. I didn't know. He was a good faker until it became real. Because he let Jesus speak to him and change him from the inside out. Nobody, I mean this, you got to hear me. Nobody can touch the people that you touch in your life. I'll never, ever be able to affect the people that you will. And the only thing you can take into eternity, is it your new shoes? Is it your pet? I personally think Jesus is going to recreate my Tucker because he's so great. Anyways, it's people. It's not our stuff. Our stuff is it's just gone. It's going to be people. So I just want you to know, when I come into a room like this and I see all of you, I see gifts. You are gifts. How much is this worth? How much is it worth now? What if I put ketchup on it?
Burn it.
What if I put ketchup on it? Has it lost 1 penny of its value? You know what I noticed when I opened it up? It was ripped at the bottom. Is it worth less? This is how I want you to view yourself. No matter what choices you've made in your life, no matter what choices were forced upon you, you have not lost 1 penny of your value to God, to the people of God. All you need is a little tender, loving care. And you might need a friend, you might have a friend who needs you to take a $20 bill and say to them, you have not lost 1 penny of your value. Because again, the world around us tells us that we're not good enough, we're too much, try harder, buy this, do that, and that's just BS. It's just not true. Good job on the $20 bills. You can have it back. It's just a little beat up. But if you hand it to any cashier, do you think they're going to go, I can't take this because it's crumpled? Do you think they'll say that? Not a chance. Is anybody here want that $20 bill in case she's thinking, right? Do you see how valuable that $20 bill is? Has not lost 1 penny of its value. Okay, before we go through our last one on what am I good at? At the top, oh, you didn't write it in? Sorry, you didn't get to write in. Here we go. This is what you can be if you want to be. You can be God's messenger to the world. And when Kim and I, the last restaurant we were in, all we said to the waitress was, "You're incredible." Like, she was. She just, and we said a couple things to her, and her face, it was like she started to tear up. Like, but I was just telling her what God thinks about her. I wasn't making stuff up. I wasn't just being nice. I was telling her what God thinks of her. I can be God's disciple maker. A disciple maker is somebody who looks and acts like Jesus. And Paul said, follow me as I follow Christ. So we can say to people, look, I make mistakes. I don't know what I'm doing sometimes, but I'm trying to follow Jesus. You want to follow? Can we do this together? Because that way we can have purpose. I can be a light to the world. It doesn't matter how dark this world gets. Honestly, guys, it really doesn't matter. We could turn all the lights off in here and turn off the exit signs. It could get so dark. What do we need to create a little light? What? Or the tiniest match, right? Or somebody turns on their phone. One little light. The darkness is not dark anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, you change the atmosphere everywhere you go. The last one is, I can be an ambassador of Christ. You can be. These are not you are, unless you are a child of God, unless you say, I want to follow Jesus. These are all the things he invites you to. And it doesn't mean you have to be good enough or smart enough. As soon as you start following him, you just are. Okay? This is just who you are. So that is what you can fill in. Ephesians 2, verse 10 is you're his workmanship. All right, guys. Ooh, is some more? You need me to do it again? Oh, okay. Oh, on the top, that is purpose. Why am I here? Purpose. Oh, what? Yeah, purpose. Oh, sorry. Oh, guys. Oh, here, now, and eternity. So you're a gift here and now, today, and forever and ever and ever and ever. Yeah,
So
here and now.
Here/now.
Here/now.
And
And eternity. Billions and billions and billions of years. Where there's no sickness, no death, because that's affected all of us, some of us more than others. All right. Thanks for reminding me what I left out. Okay, guys, I want you to stand up. Everybody stand up for a moment, because we're on our home stretch, right? Hands up. As far as you can go. Yeah, I know. Okay, like this. Oh. Okay. This way. Stay standing if you've ever been awakened by someone snoring. Awakened by someone snoring. Stay standing if it was you. You awoke yourself because you were snoring. Right? Because especially when we have a cold. Right? Okay, have a seat. Stand up if you've ever had someone give you a fish handshake.
What's that?
Oh.
What is that? Oh.
Hi, how you doing? Yeah. Give each other a fish handshake. Go ahead. It's so hi. Hi.
You're not allowed.
Hi, how you doing? Yeah. It's just the weirdest. It's like, hi. Hi, how you doing? Okay, have a seat. Stand up if you have ever gotten into the wrong car by accident. Okay, have a seat. Stand up. See, why this is so fun is because we're wired to know and be known. We want to know each other. We do well in relationship. And when somebody else goes, yeah, me too. I jumped into a car and I said, you're not my husband? And he went, you're right, I'm not. And I jumped out and Kim's laughing at me over there. And I'm like, whoa, I just jumped in the wrong car. And everyone kind of laughs because either they've done it or they're imagining it, right? Stand up if you have ever ridden in a helicopter. Okay? Have a seat. Stand up if you've ever driven a go-kart. Okay, nice. Have a seat. Stand up if you've ever forgotten someone's name right after you met them. So embarrassing. Stand up if you have ever laughed until you cried. You've laughed until you cried. Stand up if you've ever ridden a horse. Stay standing if you ever fell off that horse or it bucked you off. Stay standing if you got back on the horse. Congratulations to us. I know, right? Stand up if you've ever been charged by a bull. I will sit down. A bull. Really? Really? Stand up if you've ever been charged by a goat.
Come on.
Really? Stand up if you've ever touched a kangaroo. Touched a kangaroo. We live right by a kangaroo farm. So if you come visit us, we'll take you to the kangaroo farm just down the street. Okay, have a seat. All right. Last page that we're filling out is with a sneaker. Top of it, this is a long word, but I'm going to, and hopefully I'll just spell it for you. Competency. Competency. What am I good at? Basically is the question. What am I good at?
Being good at spelling.
What am I good at? And the next line is not perfect at. We're not asking you, what are you perfect at? I'm asking you, what are you good at? How many of you struggle with comparison? You actually you're constantly comparing yourself to other people, right? You know what? I call it crippling comparison. Because it stops you from enjoying what you're good at or what you're becoming good at and just going, well, I'll never be as good as her. Or I'm not good as him. Or like, oh, right? And that can always be possible. And when you do that, it actually starts pulling you down. How many of you remember learning to tie your shoelaces? Okay, I'm noticing some shoelaces here. Okay, how many of you tied your own shoelaces today? Congratulations, good job, good job. How many of you remember crying or being upset when you first started to learn? You were like, this is really hard. I don't think I'm ever going to get it. I remember thinking, I'm going to be like 80 and I will go, I don't know how to tie my shoelaces. How did we learn to tie our shoelaces, people?
My dad.
Yes.
Watching other people do it because I was never taught.
Watching other people do it? How are you? Shh, shh, shh. By your mom? Parents? What did you do to get better at tying your shoelaces? Practice. Practice, practice, practice. Does practice make perfect? No.
Practice makes perfect.
Practice gets you better and better and better and better and better. So, what are you good at? Whatever you practice. Whatever you practice. So you can put that down. Whatever you practice. So, I want you to take this shoe right now. I'm suggesting you take this shoe it's kind of looks like that shoe, but take the shoe and on every shoelace, every bit of that shoelace, every bit of, you can either draw a line to it or write on it. I want you to write down some things you're good at. And I don't want you to think too hard about this. I don't want you to go, oh, I'm not as good at Sarah. I'm not as good as my older brother. I'm not as good as, the famous NHL hockey player. I don't want you to compare. What are the things that pop in your mind you go, I'm good at? And it might be some people skills, like I'm good at listening. It might be I'm good at asking questions. It could be physical things like athletic stuff. It could be intellectual things like solving math problems or doing puzzles. It might be I'm good at babysitting and calming children down. Like it could be things like, well, I will be quiet and I'll let you write down what you're good at, okay? Are you ready for the next section? Are you ready for the next section? And I want you to fill it.
Even the tiny laces? Yeah,
How tiny are those laces?
going like this.
Yep, okay, that's pretty good. I want more.
What?
More. I want more good things. What are you good at? Okay, if you don't know, you know who you can ask? Jesus. Ask him, Jesus, what am I good at? And watch what he tells you. Jesus, what am I good at? Because sometimes we don't realize unless we ask Jesus. And again, even if you're not, like you're going, I'm not a follower of Jesus, that's okay. You can still ask him. He still talks to you. Jesus, what am I good at? And write it down. Keep writing them down. Not what are you perfect at? What are you good at? What are you good at? What we're good at changes over life. How many of you have grandparents who says, I used to be good at this, but I'm not able to do some things I used to be good at, right? But they might be good at things now that they weren't when they were younger. So what you're good at will change, and it will depend on what you practice. Keep putting it down. Keep putting it down. But if what you're good at is your identity, if what you're good at is your purpose, if what you're good at is what you trust in, if what you're good at defines your belonging, then it is frail and weak. It's not a strong foundation. So, I'm going to tell you, how many of you have ever failed at something?
I feel that Jenga.
Okay. I asked Jesus, this is a couple years ago. I'm going to finish this section with these two illustrations. I asked Jesus a couple years ago, like, I am so afraid of failure. Do any of you kind of struggle with trying to do things perfect all the time? Like anybody kind of, okay. So this is what, and I'm not saying you have to take this from me, but you get to ask Jesus your own questions. This is what I asked him. I said, Jesus, I'm so afraid of failure. What do I need to know? And he told me, you need to know that the way you look at failure is like Jenga.
Jenga.
And I'm like, what? Yeah, how many of you have played Jenga? Does anyone not understand the idea behind Jenga? Okay, anyone not understand the idea? Okay, so the idea behind Jenga, right, is that if you pull out the wrong block, it's going to crash, you lose, and who usually has to clean up? The loser, right? So my idea of failure was if I do the wrong thing, it will be loud, embarrassing, I'm going to have to clean up my own mess all the time. I don't love being embarrassed. I don't love being humiliated. He says, that's how you think about it. I said, well, Jesus, how do you think about it? You know what he said? How many of you have ever played that game? Okay, so the idea of Twister is to be ridiculous, isn't it? And when you play Twister, you are going to fall, right? But what's going to happen when you fall? Are you going to be mad at people? Are you going to be humiliated and embarrassed? Or are you going to laugh? The whole idea is to enjoy each other. And Jesus said to me, he said, Twister is just trying stuff out, knowing that when you fall, because there are times you will fall, you're going to fall into me. Have you ever fallen on somebody if you play Twister, or if you're playing on the trampoline or whatever? He goes, and I want you to see me smiling up at you. I fall into Jesus, and he's smiling, going, that was fun. You want to try that again? Can you see how that's a completely different idea? So if you'd like, you can put Jenga versus Twister.
Twister wins.
If you want to consider the different ways to look at failure. Somebody told me last night that there's a famous businesswoman who was being interviewed, and they said, what was the key to your business success? She said, every night at dinner, my father would ask each one of us, how did you fail today? Because if you didn't risk, you didn't fail. And he would cheer them on for when they failed, because he would say, because you tried. Isn't that a wild way to look at things? So she's taken risks, and like if you read stories of the most famous people that have changed the course of history, they've had a lot of failures. Abraham Lincoln is the one who I think has had the most failures I've ever read about. One after another, after another, after another, after another, after another, after another, and he is one of the most influential men in history. All right. So, honey, we're ready to wrap this baby up. These questions, again, depending on how you answer them for yourself, either will make you incredibly confident in life or incredibly insecure. And that's completely up to you. Kim and I have both decided, even before we met each other, that we wanted to let Jesus be the one who tells us the truth. And to be honest, I grew up in a faith family, but I wasn't confident that the Bible was the Word of God or that Jesus was the Son of God until I did my own investigation. So I did. I went to school, I studied, I read, I studied different religions, came to the conclusion, the Bible's the Word of God, it's true. Jesus is the Son of God, he's real. And because I believe the Word of God, we've been able to see, we've been trying to live out the life that Jesus has invited us to, including praying for people, and not always, but lots of times seeing them get healed. Not always. Praying for people and seeing their heart get healed, their body healed, their families healed. We're part of being a gift to the world. Not because we're so amazing, except Jesus says we are, and because he's amazing in us, which is why he's inviting you all to. All right, a little more stand up if, and then we bring her home. You okay with that? Isn't the stand-up if fun?
Yes.
Like, it's one of my favorite things in the world. Okay, stand up if you ever have dreams about not being able to talk. Yes. For me, it's about being in danger. Is anyone's a happy dream not being able to talk? Mine is always like, yeah. Okay, stand up if you've ever heard a song in the morning and it's stuck in your head all stinking day long. You cannot get that sucker out of your head. Right? Okay, have a seat. Stand up if you've ever had your fingers caught in a door. Fingers caught in a door. Have a seat. Stand up if you've ever caught someone else's fingers in a door. It's the worst. Stand up if you drove here with somebody who talks to other drivers. You drove here, you were in the car with someone who talks to other drivers, and they only say nice things, right? Like such a good turn, way to go. No, I'm kidding. Okay, have a seat. Stand up if my voice is starting to give out, so I'm not going to repeat it. Stand up if you love it when people sing happy birthday to you, like you love it. And there's always a few people that love it. That's cool, that's good to know. Good to know. Stand up if you hate it. You're not just like don't care for it. You hate it if people sing happy birthday to you. Okay? Good to know. Have a seat. Stand up if you think holding a baby would be scary. You're like, oh, I don't want to hold a baby. Okay? Nice. Have a seat. Stand up if you talk to yourself. You talk to yourself. Nice. Have a seat. Stand up if you talk to your technology. And I don't mean saying, hey, Google, or hey, Siri, like not that. But if you your phone's not working, or your computer's not working, or your TV's, you talk to your, okay. Stand up if you talk to your pet. Stand up if you pretend to be your pet voice talking back to you. Stand up if you talk to characters in a movie or a game when you're playing. Don't do that, don't open the door. Okay. Stand up if you give yourself a talking to. Did we do that right? Oh, I'm sorry. We did that. I'm sorry. I apologize. Okay. Stand up if when you sneeze multiple times. Like you can't sneeze once. Okay. All right. Have a seat.
Circle thing?
With the feet?
Yeah.
Sure.
And then we do this?
Yeah. Okay. We have time actually. So we're going to play a game with you guys. We're going to do 2 circles though, right? Yeah. Oh, is there another person? Okay, so what we're going to do is Kim's going to take a group up on top. So this side go with Kim. This side come with me. Come, we're going to go in a circle. What is it? Okay, open up. Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay, nice big circle. Okay, is that 2? So you guys can